Chapter 49-26. She moved her hand. Naturally she knew how strong the poison was. Qingge first felt weak and dizzy, but her consciousness was extremely clear. Following that, she clearly felt a piercing pain in her body, as if it was being pricked by needles. What kind of experience was it to be powerless and in so much pain that she couldn't even move? Just ask Qingge and you will know. Anyway, Yiqing Luo expressed that she absolutely couldn't take it. Originally she thought that Qingge would probably endure for 4 to 6 hours before she couldn't wait any longer, and ran over to look for her. Even if it wasn't to beg her for the antidote. Wouldn't it be to forcefully ask for the antidote? But Qingge seemed to have disappeared. There was no sign of her at all. Yiqing Luo put down the ancient book in her hand. Her long and narrow eyes raised as she looked at the man opposite her with a smile. The black-haired man had a head full of black hair that was as thick as the finest ink. It was unbound and scattered over his shoulders like a piece of silk that was spread out, black, shiny and soft. His slender jade-like fingers were holding a book. The man quietened down. His entire person looked slightly lazy, but cold and noble. Yiqing Luo's mind, suddenly a sentence popped out. A man like Jade, unparalleled in the world. Yiqing Luo's eyes were sparkling. Her gaze was almost glued to him. This burning gaze made the man who was looking at the ancient book slightly raise his eyes and meet her sparkling eyes. In the young lady's eyes, there was a touch of amazement because of his face. The man's peerless face revealed an even more bewitching evil smile. What's the matter? A low and mellow The ending rose like a feather, floating on the heartstrings. Yiqing Luo blinked her long curly eyelashes, her charming eyes rippling like a pool of spring water as she smiled and raised her eyebrows. She didn't speak, but the man could tell what she was trying to express at one glance. He put down the book in his hand. Bored? Yiqing Luo nodded her little head. I'll accompany you. Dmo Xian pushed the table full of ancient books aside, stretched out his hand and held the young lady's hand. Yiqing Luo shook her little head. No need to go through so much trouble. Her room is just next door. You can slowly look through here. I'll just take a look secretly. To tell the truth, she was still rather curious. What kind of method did Qingge use to endure the poison of the needles? Anyway, it's next door. It was okay to sneak a peek. If he was discovered, he still had the teleportation secret technique. He did not panic at all. Dmo Xian also thought of this point and did not stop them. His slender, jade-like fingers pinched the girl's wound. His voice was low and deep as he warned. Be careful. Don't mess around. Come back after you've seen it. Call me if there's any danger. Yiqing Luo's eyes curved into crescents as she nodded her head like a chicken pecking at rice. All right, my dear. No problem, my dear. I will obey Xian's orders. Don't say that you know and then forget. The man pinched her face again. If you're not back in an hour, I'll pick you up. Yiqing Luo was pinched in pain as her little hand hugged his big palm. She stared at him while muttering indistinctly with grievance. You look like you're worried about your own daughter's father. Who asked you to be so naughty? Dmo Xian poked her forehead. Don't run around. If you let me know that you've left my sensing range in future, I'll really tie you up. Under his repeated assurance, Yiqing Luo walked out of the study room. Qingge specially placed the study room not far from her own bedroom. She could reach it in just a few steps. Waist 7th young miss. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Waist 7th young miss. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-27. Yiqing Luo looked at the distance between the both of them as she clicked her tongue. TSK, Sima Zhao's intentions were known to everyone. But unfortunately her Xian didn't fall for this trick. Yiqing Luo's pink lips rose as her vision surveyed the surroundings. The Palace of Darkness base was built underground. Other than the Palace of Darkness disciples' side, which was illuminated by the luminous pearls. This place, which was known as the forbidden grounds of the base, was in complete darkness. Only Qing Ji's room projected a faint glow from the luminous pearls. Yiqing Luo thought for a moment. She didn't go over from the main entrance. Instead her figure flashed as she hid herself in the darkness and silently bypassed the front door and climbed towards the back of the room. According to the design here, The room in front was the bedroom's front hall. The inner hall was the resting place. Yi Qingluo went one round and through the closed window. She was able to determine the position of Qing Ji's inner hall. She just leaned over. She saw the luminous pearls on the window projecting a few elongated figures. Yi Qingluo immediately stuck to the wall to prevent her own shadow from being seen by the people inside. "Princess, bear with it." An old voice which was intentionally suppressed was heard from inside the room. She could faintly hear Qing Ji's suppressed moans. Then after a while, that moan seemed to be unable to be suppressed. It turned into a painful scream. Just a cry. But very quickly it was blocked by something. "Quick! Hold the princess down!" That old voice anxiously commanded. The shadows in the room swayed as the footsteps were messy. Yi Qingluo listened, and there were about 4 to 5 people inside, and all of them had extraordinary abilities. The room was in a mess. After some time, that painful moan started to slow down. "Grand Warlock, can the poison in Princess's body be cured?" The person who asked was an extremely young-sounding lady. The old voice sounded tense as though he was unwilling and helpless. "I've tried my best. Who is it that dares to poison the princess?" Another man gnashed his teeth in anger. The old man who was addressed as Grand Warlock spoke in a deep tone. "If you want to cure Princess, you can only let Princess tell us who the person is and we will ask for the antidote." "But the princess doesn't want to say anything." "I know who it is." A cold male voice rang out. That distance made Yi Qingluo jump in shock, because the voice came from right in front of her, very close to her. In other words, she and the man in the room were only separated by a window. "What the F***ck? Scared the hell out of me." Yi Qingluo's body tensed up, not daring to move recklessly. "Who is Huan Tu?" the woman asked anxiously. The cold man's tone was very cold. "The princess was poisoned, but you are not willing to say who it is. There can only be one person and that is... No. Qing Ji's hoarse voice spat out the words with difficulty. "Princess." When the people in the room heard the clear pigeon's voice, they immediately rushed forward with concern. Qing Gu warned him word by word. "Huan II, do not say anything. I will never bow down to her and ask for the antidote." He could hear it. Qing Gu was in extreme pain as she spoke. "Your Highness, your body cannot be delayed any longer." The Grand Warlock's tone was a little anxious. "If you drag on any longer, the poison will spread throughout your entire body. I'm afraid. Your future days will be ruined." Qing Gu didn't say a word. The woman persuaded. "Your Highness, are you willing to spend your days in this way? Don't you want the position of Mirage King anymore?" Trash 7th Young Mistress. "Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love." Trash 7th Young Mistress. "Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 49-28. Qing Ji's breathing stagnated for a moment as she spoke in a hoarse voice. "How can this poison hurt me?" "Your Highness, this poison." The Grand Shaman was a little ashamed. "I've only read about this kind of poison in the ancient books, but I have no idea what kind of poison it is and how to cure it." "Useless." Qing Gu reprimanded him sternly. "You can't even cure a useless poison. What qualifications do you have to be the Grand Shaman?" Qing Ji's words were full of anger, not leaving any face for the Grand Shaman. The Grand Shaman's face turned red, embarrassed and angry, and he didn't say a word. The woman quickly broke the deadlock and comforted her gently. "Your Highness, you can't be angry now. Tell us, who is the person who poisoned you?" "I won't beg her. I can snatch it." The woman was Qing Ji's personal maid, Huan Luo, and she could tell that Qing Gu was feeling awkward at this moment. "Snatch." Qing Gu snorted lightly, her tone was full of ridicule. "Do you think you can snatch it? She was the one who suffered. Hadn't she thought of forcing Feng Qingluo to take out the antidote? But that slut had the Overlord by her side. With the protection of the Overlord, no one could get close to that slut. What's more, it would alert the enemy. If the Overlord found out the existence of the power behind her, the Overlord would definitely investigate thoroughly. Isn't the person who poisoned the princess a useless person?" Huan Luo was puzzled. "Useless person? In front of the window, the man who was addressed as Huan San spoke indifferently. Which useless person do you think can make the princess suffer? Huan Luo. It seemed like there wasn't anyone. Their clan's princess was one of the strongest among them. She was the hope of their clan. To be able to make the princess become like this. How could he be a useless person? Huan San. Qingge shouted angrily. Huan San turned his head away and didn't say a word. He turned his head. Huan San's gaze was directed towards the direction of the window. Under the bright light of the luminous pearl, he could vaguely see a black shadow moving outside the window. Huan San's expression froze as he shouted, "Who is it?" He suddenly made a move, slapped open the tightly shut window and flew out. Huan 3, what's wrong? Who's outside? The expressions of the people in the room changed greatly when they saw Huan 3's movements. They all cautiously rushed out. Outside the window, under the illumination of the luminous pearl, there was no sound. It was a deathly stillness. There was no one around. There was no sign of life either. They chased after him. He looked around. Huan 3, didn't you find someone? Why don't I see anyone? Someone asked. Huan 3's expression was cold. He furrowed his brows and looked around suspiciously. Just now, I clearly saw. If there's someone, how can he escape our senses? Aren't you being too sensitive? Huan 3 pursed his lips and carefully sensed for a moment before saying, perhaps. They slowly returned to the house. Right then, standing on top of the wall, Yiqing Luo, who was using the lush trees as cover, was shivering. She didn't expect that person called Huan 3 to be so sensitive. He immediately discovered her existence. Luckily, she had the secret art of teleportation. She teleported to the top of the wall in minutes. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-29. She retracted all of her aura. Even her breathing was extremely careful. Those people didn't discover her. She who was hiding in the dark. She even saw those people's looks clearly. That person called Huan San was dressed in black, his hair combed neatly, and there was a long sword by his waist. From his attire, he should be a secret guard. Behind him was a man and a woman, also dressed in secret guard attire, and a black-robed great sorcerer with white beard and white brows. But the most eye-catching thing was, it was the huge totem embroidered on those people's clothes. Like a bolt of lightning, or like a splash of ink, the edges outlined a dreamlike ripple. That totem was very unfamiliar. Yiqing Luo had never seen it before. She memorized the shape of the totem in her mind. Later on, she would copy it for Xian to check on it. Through the broken window, the few people in the house had already disappeared without a sound, leaving behind Qingge, who was lying on the bed with a face full of pain, her body twisting slightly. Yiqing Luo originally wanted to see if this Qingge had really found the way to cure the poison. She was so stubborn that she didn't come to beg her. Now she saw it. Yiqing Luo had no interest to stay any longer. She retracted her gaze and flipped down from the wall. The moment her feet landed on the ground, her pupils constricted, and the expression on her face darkened a little. Her feet moved and her petite figure retreated swiftly in the darkness. Following that, she turned her head and looked behind her alertly. In the darkness, a tall figure was faintly discernible. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened slightly. There was indeed someone. She had been discovered. She squinted her eyes slightly as her vision wandered around, calculating the time she left the other party's sight. But that figure's sleeves were like floating clouds, reflecting into her eyes. Yiqing Luo's vigilant expression instantly disappeared. She frowned and asked uncertainly, "Zhu Xian?" Yiqing Luo. In the darkness, the man's cold and slightly hoarse voice rang. Indeed, it was Zhu Xian's voice. Not knowing if it was because she recognized Zhu Xian or for some other reason, she poked at Zhu Xian's sore point. The man's usual cold voice carried a hint of a smile. "What are you doing here?" Yiqing Luo didn't answer his question but instead asked back, "Why are you here?" "I saw that you were here, so I came over," Zhu Wuxin replied indifferently. His gaze fell on the wall. "This is the direction of Qingdove's room." Yiqing Luo replied unhurriedly. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will emerge victorious in every battle. I'm here to take a look. This woman who has the guts to covet my man, what's so worthy for me to guard against? Zhu Wu Xian walked towards Yiqing Luo from the darkness. His eyes were especially black in the darkness. As though towards Yiqing Luo's reply, there wasn't much feeling or reaction. Yiqing Luo's gaze looked downwards at his chest. Your injury. Worried about me? Before she could ask, Zhu Wuxin had already interrupted her. The man's tone was somewhat joyful. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips slightly, her gaze was calm. Your injury, after all, was inflicted by me. The joy in Zhu Wu Xian's eyes didn't diminish. For you to ask this, it means that you're still concerned about me. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath, as she couldn't be bothered to tell Zhu Wu Xian clearly that she wasn't concerned about him. Anyway, Zhu Wu Xian wouldn't listen at all. She directly turned around, preparing to leave. Don't you want to know Qing Dove's identity? Behind her, the man's tone was indifferent, but the words he said made Yiqing Luo's footsteps suddenly halted. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49:30. Zhu Wu Xian. Knew Qing Ji's real identity? He would say this out loud. This meant that. He also knew. She already knew that there was a hidden powerhouse behind Qing Ge. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk as she turned back to look at Zhu Wu Xian's eyes. Since when have you been following me? Zhu Wuxin must have seen what had happened in the clear pigeon house. So he was watching her from the dark. She secretly peeked at Qing Ge, but she didn't know that she was also being secretly peeked at. Indeed, she would have to pay for what she did sooner or later. Shivering. It scared her to death. Not long ago. Zhu Wu Xian said calmly. That's not important. What's important is. If you want to know, I can tell you. Yiqing Luo didn't move and there wasn't much change in her expression. No need. She didn't want to accept any goodwill from Zhu Wu Xian or any help from him. Otherwise it would become more and more troublesome. Anyway, towards the mysterious powerhouse behind Qing Ge. She wasn't in a hurry to find out. Anyway, even if she knew what kind of powerhouse the mysterious powerhouse was, she couldn't do anything now. The longer it drags on, the more troublesome it will be. Zhu Wu Xian's eyes dimmed for a moment, but he continued. Moreover, even if you want to investigate, you won't be able to find anything. With Xian around, there's nothing I can't find. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled as her tone was obviously distant. Master Zhu, I don't need your help. Thank you for your kind intentions. She said that, and without any hesitation, she stepped into the darkness. She didn't even turn her head back. A strange light ridicule sounded in the darkness. A figure walked out from the darkness. That figure stood behind Zhu Wu Xian as his voice was sinister and sinister. Pavilion Master, have you given up? Zhu Wu Xian stood at his original spot, not saying a word. The black shadow chuckled again, a chilling chuckle. No matter how much you try to express your feelings, she doesn't love you, and she won't be willing to accept any of your feelings. Pavilion Master, don't tell me you still don't understand. Because she doesn't love you, she can hurt you unscrupulously, trample on your heart, treat you like a dreadful beast, and avoid you like a fly. Your nearness to her is a great annoyance. The black shadow's words were like needles stabbing into the most painful part of Zhu Wuxin's heart. Even Zhu Wu Xian's frosty expression changed slightly. The black shadow slowly walked closer to Zhu Wu Xian and said in a low, bewitching voice, Pavilion Master, previously about the deal I discussed with you. You can carefully consider it. Bang. Zhu Wuxin waved his hand. Rays of profound light shot out. The shadow in front of him was split into two halves. However, there was no blood. Thick yin qi spread out from the black figure. The voice of the black shadow that had been split into two continued. Pavilion Master, I'll wait for you to change your mind, his words fell. The two halves of the body turned into dust and dissipated into the air like ashes. When Yiqing Luo returned to the study room, Diemo Xian was still sitting in front of the table flipping through the ancient books. Hearing the sound, He raised his head and looked at the young lady. His obsidian black eyes were filled with gentleness and pampering. Have you played enough? Almost went overboard. Yi Qing Luo patted her chest exaggeratedly as she leaned towards Dmo Xian. Guess what I saw at Qing Ji's side? The young lady's mysterious look made Dmo Xian's eyes smile. He stretched out his hand and embraced the young lady. His smile instantly congealed on his face. His expression also sunk slightly. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with my love. Chapter 49-31. His hand pressed on the young lady's shoulder as his deep inky eyes squinted slightly. Who did you meet earlier? Yi Qing Luo was about to tell Dmo Xian about what she heard outside Qing Ji's room. Being questioned by Dmo Xian, she instantly swallowed back the words that were about to come out. The man's gaze was deep like a deep pool, unable to see the bottom. Who did she meet? Who could she meet? She just went to Qing Ji's place for a stroll, and then Yi Qing Luo's eyes widened. Zhu Xan? It's indeed him. Dmo Xian's eyes flashed past a sliver of displeasure. Yi Qing Luo lowered her head as she looked at herself. What's the matter? How would Xian know that she and Zhu Xian had just met? Dmo Xian didn't answer her question as he stretched out his hand and pulled her into his embrace. His chin was pressed against her head. The man's mellow voice floated down. I really need to tie you to my side. Yi Qing Luo. Wait a minute, what on earth had happened? What did she do? Dmo Xian had no intention to answer this question. Yi Qing Luo could roughly guess. Just now, Zhu Wuxin must have done something to her body, or purposely stained her body with his scent. Which was why Dmo Xian's expression suddenly changed. Yi Qing Luo allowed Dmo Xian to disperse the remaining Zhu Xian's scent on her body like a childish boy. She then opened her mouth. Sir, are you satisfied? If you're not satisfied, what are you going to do? Dmo Xian lowered his eyes as his deep gaze congealed on her. Yi Qing Luo's long eyelashes fluttered as she blinked. Following that, she gave a sweet and innocent smile. If you're not satisfied, there's nothing I can do. The core values of socialism don't allow it, so you can only make do and be satisfied. Dmo Xian. What fucking make do and be satisfied? Alright. He made do. I was outside Qing Ji's room when I saw those forces behind her. Yi Qing Luo told Dmo Xian everything she heard at Qing Ji's place. After that, she pushed Dmo Xian's arm away and walked straight to another neat desk. She spread out a piece of paper in front of her and picked up a pen beside it. Following the shape in her mind, she copied the totem she saw on the clothes of the secret guards and the grand shaman, stroke by stroke. After about the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, Yi Qing Luo put down her pen. Look, have you seen this force before? The totem which Yi Qing Luo had drawn was exactly the same as the totem which Yi Qing Luo had seen. Dmo Xian scrutinized it for a moment and frowned slightly. No. This totem was very unfamiliar. Ask the Imperial Palace's side to investigate secretly. If they're able to find out that powerhouse, there's a possibility that we can make use of it. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly. The goal of the Palace of Darkness. It was for the tomb of the Divine Emperor. The reason why Qing Ge was in the gloomy palace. It was also for the tomb of the Divine Emperor. In the end, the two forces would stand on opposite sides. If he could make good use of it, there might be a chance to get rid of these two forces. That's right, Xian Zhu Xian said. He knows the powerhouse behind Qing Ge. What kind of powerhouse is it? Yi Qing Luo suddenly recalled what Zhu Xian said earlier. Dmo Xian's fingertips moved as he locked her chin. What he knows is his own matter, you're not allowed to ask him. I just know that a big vinegar jar like you would get jealous. Yi Qing Luo pushed his hand away, so I directly rejected him. Chapter 49-32. Dmo Xian's thin lips curled into a smile as he rubbed her head. Be good. Yi Qing Luo. Be good your head. You're such a bad vinegar jar. But to ridicule. Yi Qing Luo didn't say it out. She adjusted her tone and said, even you haven't seen this powerhouse's totem, but Zhu Xian would know. There's a possibility that he might be related to that powerhouse. Zhu Wu Xian, this person. In her past memories, she only remembered that Zhu Wu Xian's identity was very mysterious. Later on in Death God Castle, when she met Zhu Wu Xian, she only thought that Zhu Wu Xian was just Death God Castle's castle lord. But later on she discovered Zhu Wu Xian was not only Death God Castle's castle lord, and the so-called Death God Castle was not as simple as what it looked on the surface. Otherwise, the ghost robbers would not have been imprisoned in Death God Castle for so many years. Later on, when they arrived at the upper realm, Zhu Wu Xian transformed into the Red Clear Pavilion's Pavilion Lord. The Red Clear Pavilion that was famous in the upper realm, and even in the God realm, and he was able to collaborate with the people behind the Nether Palace, and casually cut off the collaboration. And he wasn't afraid of the people behind the Nether Palace taking revenge. Zhu Wu Xian's identity, thinking in this way, wasn't that simple. Yiqing Luo's eyes deepened. Don't think about him. Dmo Xian cupped her face as his tone became heavier, as though he was unhappy. I will investigate, there's no need to ask him. Yes, I will, my lord husband. A vinegar jar was indeed a vinegar jar. This totem. Suddenly, Yiqing Luo felt a scorching sensation on her wrist. Following that, she saw a light figure floating out. That figure was faintly discernible in the darkness. It was in a translucent state. Old man Song, what's the matter? Yiqing Luo immediately looked at that floating figure. You've seen this totem before? Old man Song walked several rounds around the totem which Yiqing Luo had drawn on the study table. I seem to have seen it somewhere. Old man Song recalled with difficulty. But it's been too long, I really can't recall where I've seen it before. Vaguely, he felt that this totem looked familiar. However, if he thought about it carefully he would be stuck. Yes, before you became the guardian spirit of the Azure Dew bracelet, did you see it? Yiqing Luo probed. After Old Man Song became the guardian spirit of the Azure Dew bracelet, he had slumbered for over 10,000 years. If he had seen it before, this also meant that the history of this force was comparable to the Feng family. That was a force even more ancient than the so-called Palace of Darkness. Old Man Song nodded his head without hesitation. Yes, I only have a vague impression of it, but I'm not too sure if this totem is the same as the one in my memory. Now, I can only wait for the Imperial Palace to investigate and see if there is any news. With the clue provided by Old Man Song, a lot of time was saved. Old Man Song wanted to say something. He suddenly looked out the door. The smoke-like figure immediately followed Yiqing Luo's wrist and drilled into the Azure Dew bracelet. Someone. Yiqing Luo's gaze swept towards the room door. His gaze fell on the table again, on the paper with the totem drawn on it. If this totem was discovered by Clear Pigeon, that would be alerting the enemy. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk. Her slender white hand immediately grabbed that piece of paper. At the same time, the study room's door was suddenly opened by someone. A white-robed fluttered, incomparably frail woman, supported by a maid, stood at the door. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Everyone please collect. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Hit me. Chapter 49-33. Qing Ji's face was as pale as a piece of paper, with beads of cold sweat on her forehead. The maid beside her was the lady named Huan Luo. Overlord. Qing Ji's weak voice was soft and powerless. That look coupled with that voice. It was a pitiful painting of a beauty. After all, Qing Ge had always been elegant and dignified. Suddenly becoming so weak, it made one feel sorry for her. The contrast was enough to stir one's heart. But Qing Ji's belly full of words were stuck in her throat. When Wan's frail face froze in that instant. The scene in the study room. All her plans had been disrupted. Inside the study room, the young lady in a fiery red dress had one arm around the man's neck. The other hand was placed on Dmo Xian's chest. Their posture was intimate. At this moment, both of them simultaneously turned their gazes toward the door. Tacit understanding. Warmth. Qing Ji's body was on the verge of collapse. The sharp pain in her body that felt like it was being pierced by needles was even more unbearable. And Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief when she lowered her eyes. Just at the moment when the door was pushed open, she had coincidentally stuffed that piece of paper with the totem into Di Emotien's arms. Scared the hell out of her. She was almost discovered by Qingge. Luckily, she was quick-witted and had quick reflexes. But she just wanted to hide that piece of paper. It seemed that Qingge had misunderstood. Yiqing Luo tilted her head. Her eyes were filled with a faint smile. Miss Qingge, what's the matter? Qingji's gaze was stuck on Di Emotien. Suddenly she heard Yiqing Luo's voice. Her gaze tightened as her sharp gaze stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. Fengqing Luo. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes and pretended to be scared as she buried her head into Di Emotien's arms. Why did you suddenly shout at me? Don't you know the reason why I am here? Qingji's voice was slightly sharp. Her jade fingers clasped Huan Luo's arm tightly as she gritted her teeth. She hated it the most. It was Fengqing Luo who deliberately pretended to be innocent and pure. Pretentious. Simply disgusting. Fengqing Luo, that slut, used this kind of pretentious look to deceive the overlord. Yiqing Luo stuck her head out and dragged out the last syllable before blinking her eyes innocently. I don't know, so why did Miss Qingge come looking for me? You. Qingge gasped and glared at Yiqing Luo. Hand over the antidote. Yiqing Luo tilted her head, her long and narrow eyes raised slightly. What antidote? What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. Qingge was so infuriated that she almost died on the spot. She turned to look at Di Moxian. Overlord, I didn't hesitate to betray his lordship to work for you. Don't tell me you're going to allow Miss Feng to treat me like this? At the end of her sentence, her voice trembled. It was as if he had suffered a great grievance. Di Emotian had yet to speak. Yiqing Luo moved and stood in front of Di Emotian, raising her brows at Qingge. What did I do to you? You poisoned me. Qingge spat out word by word through gritted teeth. After she finished her words, her entire body trembled slightly, as if the pain was spreading throughout her body. Huan Luo's arm was scratched till there were red marks. She looked at Yiqing Luo with heartache. Miss Feng, quickly hand over the antidote. Ever since you came here, my miss has never treated you unfairly. Don't you have a conscience for treating her like this? Yiqing Luo. Oh no. But her mouth was very direct, denying thrice. I didn't, I'm not, don't talk nonsense. Seventh miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-34. She put on a serious look. You said I poisoned you, show me the evidence. Anyway, there was no evidence. On what basis did she say that she was the one who poisoned her? Qingge had not expected Yiqing Luo to deny everything. She was so angry that she almost died on the spot as she gritted her teeth and stared at Yiqing Luo. Fengqing Luo, you. How could you be so shameless? Yiqing Luo's face sunk slightly as her half-squinted eyes congealed a cold arc. Miss Qingge, if you don't have any evidence, don't spout nonsense. Her pink lips curled slightly as the chill in her eyes deepened. What evidence do you have to prove that I have poisoned you? If you can't show me the evidence, can I assume that Miss Qingge is trying to attract my man's attention and intentionally slandered me? Not only did she refute in a serious manner, she even put on a high hat on Qingji's head. Qingji's face contorted slightly as she looked at Yiqing Luo's serious face of denying and intentionally making her hate. Her eyes turned red. A slut is a slut. She actually played this trick. In front of the overlord. All kinds of innocent and pure. But when facing her alone, she knew how to stretch out her sharp claws. This slut relied on this kind of pretentious method to cheat the overlord's trust. Miss Feng. Huan Luo had not expected this eldest miss of the Feng family to be so difficult to deal with. She looked at the princess who was trembling in pain and pursed her lips tightly. What you want, is Miss taking the initiative to ask you for the antidote? Now that Miss is here, what else do you want to do? Miss Feng, for the sake of the overlord, if you hand over the antidote now this matter, we will let it go. Huan Luo's tone was neither servile nor overbearing. Not much emotion could be heard from it. But every word and sentence was filled with an overbearing boldness. Yi Qingluo covered her mouth as she laughed softly. Her melodious laughter was as melodious as a silver bell. You guys are really funny. How do you put it? It seems like I'm the one who forced Miss Qingge to look for me. What's in it for me if she comes looking for me? Huan Luo took a look at Dmo Xian and saw that from the start till the end, the man had not revealed any trace of emotion. She gritted her teeth and said, "Because you deliberately wanted my young miss to lower her head to you, please. I can satisfy your vanity in front of His Majesty." When Yi Qingluo heard that, she giggled. Then has she lowered her head? Are you begging me? Huan Luo was speechless. Lower my head? How could he lower his head? Qingge was a high and mighty princess. How could he lower his head to a slut? Not to mention, begging her. Yi Qingluo seemed to have seen through Huan Luo's thoughts from her expression. She tilted her head and smiled sweetly like a flower. So, now you admit that you're slandering me? Huan Luo still wanted to say something. But Qingge grabbed his wrist. Qing Ji's face was pale, and the cold sweat on her forehead slid down her face. Her breathing was heavy as she gasped for breath. She said word by word. To put it bluntly, you just want to see me make a fool of myself. After she finished her sentence, she gasped even harder, as though it was extremely strenuous. She shut her eyes tightly and opened them again. No matter what we do, you can't possibly. Give me the antidote. Yi Qingluo's slender jade-like fingers held her chin. Her long and thick lashes fluttered like butterfly wings. Her smile was still that innocent and harmless. Aya, you've seen through me. Chapter 49-35. The young lady's fingers moved slightly and pressed against her pink lips as she blinked her eyes exaggeratedly. You finally admit it. Qing Ji's eyes widened as she stared at Yi Qingluo. You admit that you did it on purpose. Yi Qingluo tilted her head as her silky black hair slid down her porcelain-like delicate little face, making her look even more mischievous and adorable. What can you do even if I admit it? Her fingertips caressed her chin as she smiled innocently. So you want to lower your head to me and beg me to give you the antidote? That obvious mocking tone sounded as if she was teasing a pet. Qing Ji's face, which was already pale from the pain, became even paler. She widened her eyes as anger surged in her eyes. Don't even think about it. Oh. Yi Qingluo shrugged nonchalantly. Then you can turn around and leave now. This is my place. Qingge was so angry that her face started to turn red again. The redness on her pale face gave her a strange feeling. Qingge felt a fishy sweetness in her throat, as if something was about to gush out. She forcefully suppressed it and turned her gaze to Dmo Xian. Overlord, you heard it. Miss Feng admitted that she was the one who poisoned me. Now, she should be able to see the true face of this seemingly harmless slut. Overlord, I am wholeheartedly only for you, Qingge continued. I tried my best to help you, to achieve your wish. But she treated me like this. Dmo Xian's deep inky eyes glanced at Qingge indifferently. His emotions were indifferent and she couldn't tell what he was thinking. But the man's large palm was still wrapped around the young lady's waist, which gave Qingge a bad premonition. It doesn't matter whether she is the one who poisoned me or not. The man's mellow voice was deep and husky. What's important is what she wants. The man's beautiful lips curled into an ambiguous arc. If she wants to kill someone, I will hand over the knife. Qing Ji's pupils suddenly contracted. Leaning on Huan Luo, she couldn't help but stagger a few times. The meaning of the overlord's words was obvious. Whether this poison was from Feng Qingluo or not, he would always stand on Feng Qingluo's side. Overlord. Qing Ji's voice was a little hoarse, as if she was about to cry. How could you do this, heartless? Yes. This man, other than Feng Qingluo. It was so heartless that it was as if he had no feelings at all. No matter what she said, no matter how pitiful she was, he didn't even flinch. If she wants to kill someone, I'll give her the knife. She killed someone and he gave her a knife. He the high and mighty Di Zun, who was like a god. He was cold to others and had an unapproachable temperament. Actually, he was not cold at all. However, All the gentleness was given to Feng Qingluo alone. There seemed to be a whirlpool in Qing Ji's eyes, churning continuously. Her thoughts were buried under the boundless whirlpool. Sooner or later, she would take Dizun's gentleness. Sooner or later, she would get the Overlord, and let Feng Qingluo see with her own eyes how the Overlord would give all his gentleness to her. A flame of excitement flashed across Qing Dove's eyes. She clasped Huan Luo's arm tightly, gritted her teeth and spat out a word with difficulty. Go! To make her lower her head to Feng Qingluo. Absolutely impossible. Especially after being teased by Feng Qingluo. TSK. You really have a backbone. Yi Qingluo clicked her tongue and praised insincerely. Chapter 49-36. The pigeon paused for a moment. It looked like he stumbled. Yi Qingluo's brows rose slightly, as she smiled and snuggled into Dmo Xian's arms, as she pretended to speak indifferently. Backbone, or life, which one is more important? Xian, what do you think? The man slightly lowered his eyes as deep as the sea, reflecting the young girl's sweet smile. His eyes darkened. His beautiful lips were thin and his voice was elegant and mellow. You are more important. Sudden words of love. It made Yi Qingluo's maiden heart restless. Her little hand clutched onto his lapel as she raised her head to glare at Dmo Xian coquettishly. I'm being serious here. What I said was very serious. Dmo Xian's eyes were smiling. Ah. Critical strike. My health bar is empty. Her Xian was becoming more and more flirtatious. Don't you know that this is a critical period? Remember the core values of socialism. How could he say such sweet nothings to her? Be careful not to be locked in a small black room. Yi Qingluo clutched her thumping heart as she couldn't hold it in any longer. Right then, Qingge, who had yet to leave, heard the man's gentle and doting voice, saying words of love that she had never heard before. His body felt like it was being pricked by needles. The stab became even more painful. She clutched her clothes tightly. His qi and blood surged. In the next instant his vision turned black. Then he lost consciousness. Miss. Young miss. Huan Luo shouted in panic. The forbidden area of the Palace of Darkness was always quiet. Huan Luo's voice could be heard. This attracted the attention of the disciples of the Palace of Darkness. Very quickly, they rushed over in an orderly manner. Miss Huan Luo, what happened? The leader of the secluded Darkness Palace disciples shouted from outside the forbidden area. Huan Luo took a look at Dmo Xian and Yi Qingluo, and looked at the unconscious Qinggu in her arms. She bit her lips and carried Qinggu out of the study room in quick steps. Yi Qingluo and Dmo Xian exchanged glances. The girl's pink lips curled up slightly. Looks like we can't stay here anymore. It's all right. Dmo Xian wrapped his arm around her slender waist. I've already found what I wanted to find. Yi Qingluo raised her eyes. Since you found it, why are you still staying here for? Because you're naughty. The man's voice was light, but it was full of affection. Yi Qingluo. All right, she couldn't refute. It turned out that he was interested in the power behind Qingge, because of her. So he stayed and let her satisfy her curiosity, before seeing if she wanted to leave the base of the Palace of Darkness. Yi Qingluo's arms circled around his neck. Then shall we leave now? If you don't want to leave, you can stay. He had a way to let her stay in this base safe and sound. Yi Qingluo tilted her head and looked past the door of the study, at the door of Qing Ji's room not too far away. If I were to leave, there's a possibility that she might die from the poison, clear pigeon poison outbreak. Would the power behind her let her off so easily? It felt like there would be a lot of trouble in the future. It's all right. Dmo Xian bowed slightly, his thin lips spitting out words. I can protect you. Don't worry about anything, as long as you wish for it, I will definitely protect you. Yi Qingluo. Critical hit. Blood gauge, 99999. Outside the courtyard, those orderly footsteps had already entered the forbidden grounds. Apparently, they had received Huan Luo's orders. Huan Luo was planning to expose their whereabouts. Yi Qingluo passed her body weight over to Dmo Xian. Before we leave, I still want to go to a place. Seventh young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49:37. The decorations were exquisite and dazzling, with numerous toys and food, just like a children's paradise in the room. The little one was staring blankly at the candied haws in her hands. That delicate and adorable little face did not have the innocence and joy of a child, but was filled with melancholy. Her delicate brows were tightly knitted into a bundle. After staring at the candied haws for a long time, the little one suddenly threw the candied haws onto the ground. A liar who deceived this princess, just a scoundrel. This princess needs to worry about him. After roaring this sentence, the little one stepped hard on the candied haws again. This princess will not forgive a liar who deceives me. But after a few steps, the little one seemed to have lost all her strength, as she stopped her stomping action and sat on the ground weakly. Her bright and beautiful big eyes stared at the candied haws which had been stepped on. Suddenly, she started to cry. This cry had just started. She heard a clear and melodious voice ringing in the room. How much does Princess Ling Long miss Cece? So much that you're crying. The little one's cries stopped abruptly, as her beautiful eyes widened and looked around vigilantly. Who's there? Inside the room, two figures appeared silently. A fiery lady, dressed in a fluttering red robe. A black-haired man in black robe was like a god. Ling Long's exquisite little face turned slightly pale, as she stood up abruptly and took a step back. You, who are you? What are you trying to do by barging into this princess's room? Her face was filled with vigilance. How did you find out about this princess's room? Are you trying to kidnap this princess as a hostage? Yi Qingluo. This little one knew quite a lot. Her pink lips parted as she released Dmo Xian's waist and walked slowly towards the little one. Then Princess Ling Long. Do you want to be my hostage? Ling Long's little face turned pale again. Then she turned around and wanted to run. But the little one who had stepped on the candied haws earlier, he turned his head and ran. Bam! Her feet stuck to the ground and she fell onto the ground. The elegant and classy Princess Ling Long fell flat on her face. The scene was a little awkward. The little man's face was red as he struggled to get up from the ground. However, the stickiness under her feet made it impossible for her to stand firmly. He cut a sorry figure. Ling Long struggled and her eyes immediately turned red. He simply sat on the ground and refused to move. At this moment, a slender and fair little hand stretched out in front of her. Ling Long was startled. She looked up and saw a coquettish face. At this moment, the face was looking at her with a gentle and harmless smile. For some strange reason, Ling Long extended her hand into that fair hand. The warm touch caused the little girl's heart to tremble for a moment, until he was pulled up by someone. Ling Long was still in a daze. Princess Ling Long, can I ask you a question? Yi Qingluo didn't let go of her hand, but slowly squatted down and looked at the little girl at the same level. Ling Long was still a little confused. What? You should have heard that there's news from the Forbidden Land. Yi Qingluo's pink lips curled upwards as her brows were picturesque. If Fengxi is really caught, how do you want to deal with her? The young lady's voice was very gentle. Like a clear spring, it flowed past Ling Long's heart, soothing the restlessness in her heart. How to deal with Fengxi? Ling Long's eyelids drooped down slightly as her voice sounded a little tense. He lied to me and made use of me. If he is caught, I want him to taste the most severe punishment from my secluded palace. Chapter 49:38. The little girl's every word seemed to be squeezed out from the gaps of her teeth. But in the end, all her imposing manner was extinguished at this moment. She drooped her head as her eyes turned red and her crisp childish voice sounded choked. I originally thought so, but. She waved Yi Qingluo's hand away as she hugged her head with both hands. But I don't want him to be caught. Ling Long ultimately couldn't resist the true desire in her heart. She should have hated Fengxi. But the moment she thought of Fengxi's smiling face and the way Fengxi called her Ling Long, she couldn't raise any bit of hatred. That was her first friend. The first one, whom she sincerely wanted to befriend. Even if he lied to her, she didn't want anything to happen to him. Linglong's reply made Yiqing Luo's smile deepened. Indeed, it was right for her to make this trip. She didn't misjudge Linglong. Yiqing Luo took out a handkerchief and gently wiped away the tears on Linglong's face as she spoke in a gentle voice. Actually, when Fengxi left here, she left something for you. Linglong blinked her eyes. What is it? Yiqing Luo stuffed the handkerchief into her palm and pointed to her bed. Linglong was slightly stunned as joy flashed past her eyes, but there was some uncertainty and hesitation. Yiqing Luo smiled and nodded at her. Linglong remained silent for a moment as she clenched the handkerchief in her hand tightly and walked towards the direction of the bed step by step. Under the pillow, she took out a piece of letter. Linglong took a look at Yiqing Luo as she opened the letter bit by bit. She read every word on the letter word by word. Yiqing Luo didn't rush her. After about the time it took for half a stick of incense to burn, Linglong then folded the letter neatly and raised her head to look at Yiqing Luo. You are Xiaoqi. It wasn't a question but an affirmation. Yiqing Luo had no intention to hide. Did you see through it, or was it said in the letter? Earlier, when you stretched out your hand to me, I vaguely guessed it. Linglong pursed her lips. So you pretended to be Xiaoqi to bring Cici away? Yes. Yiqing Luo admitted straightforwardly. Secluded Palace's motive for capturing Cici isn't simple. It's too dangerous for Cici to stay here. I understand. Linglong looked at the letter in her hand. Knowing that he isn't lying to me or using me is enough. Yiqing Luo smiled. I think Cici also doesn't want you to misunderstand her, so I made this trip. She paused for a moment before continuing. Cici is very safe now. You don't have to worry. Cici, he has already left this place, right? Linglong's distinct black and white beautiful eyes looked at Yiqing Luo without blinking, as though she had made some sort of decision. Yiqing Luo nodded her head. Linglong clenched her tiny fists tightly. Then he stuffed the letter into his pocket. He raised his hands and stretched it out in front of Yiqing Luo. Xiaoqi, catch me. Yiqing Luo. What kind of operation was this? I'll be your hostage, bring me out of this dark place. Linglong stuffed her hands into Yiqing Luo's hands. Bring me to look for Cici. Hostage. Your Highness, are you serious? Wasn't this train of thought a little too fast? I'm the most pampered princess of Secluded Palace. As long as I'm in your hands, they absolutely won't dare to touch me. You can use me as a hostage and leave this place. Chapter 49-39. Little Princess started to analyze the reason for Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo. This child was rather smart. She actually volunteered to be a hostage. But she didn't need a hostage to leave this place? But looking at Linglong's determined eyes, she looked as though she was volunteering to be a hostage. Yiqing Luo really couldn't bear to reject her. She turned her head and looked at Dmo Xian. The black-haired man's thin lips curled slightly as his gaze was filled with love, as though he was saying, "You decide. Then take the hostage away." Linglong volunteered. Moreover, Fengxi should also want to see Linglong. A child's friendship was very pure. It wouldn't be mixed with too many interests and complicated relationships. Yiqing Luo didn't wish for Fengxi to lose a friend like this. And she indeed had some selfish motives. Over at the Secluded Palace, they respected and protected Linglong. It was enough to prove that the mastermind behind the Secluded Palace valued Linglong. If Linglong was in her hands, at least she would have some advantage. If the mastermind behind the Secluded Palace wanted to snatch Linglong back, they would definitely give themselves away. The two of them brought along a child as they silently headed towards the exit. The Secluded Palace's base exit was only the Jiang family's aristocrats' dungeon. It was heavily guarded by the Secluded Palace's disciples. Dmo Xian could come and go as he pleased. Yiqing Luo was still considering if she could use the blink movement secret art to leave silently. Then, her arm was grabbed by someone and her wrist was placed across a fair and slender neck. Linglong shouted, "I'm a hostage. None of you are allowed to move." Yiqing Luo. This lass, was she really not a spy sent by the enemy? Linglong's roar. Instantly the secluded palace's disciples who were guarding the entrance stared over in alarm. Yiqing Luo. She could only hold Linglong as she walked out from the dark. Linglong was still trying her best to display her acting. None of you are allowed to move. Once you move, she will kill me. If I die, all of you will be buried with me. I am father's most beloved princess. If anything happens to me, all of you will die. Yiqing Luo didn't know how to ridicule. Most importantly, the Nether Palace disciples actually believed it. Secluded Palace's disciples were all filled with vigilance and worry as they stared at Yiqing Luo in panic. Miss Feng, quickly let go of our princess. How much did his lord value Princess Linglong? They knew better than anyone else. Usually, if Princess Linglong were to knock herself against the wall, she would be punished with the lives of a large group of servants. If they allowed Princess Linglong to become a hostage, and even get injured. Just the thought of the consequences sent shivers down his spine. The secluded Darkness Palace disciples were so frightened that they didn't dare to move. Yiqing Luo. This was probably the common saying, being overly concerned would cause confusion. She didn't have any room to play. The man in her arms tugged at her sleeves and whispered, "Let's go now." Yiqing Luo locked Linglong's neck as she slowly walked out of the underground prison's entrance. Mr. and Mrs. Jiang also arrived with hundreds of secret guards. It was a pincer attack. But because Linglong was held hostage in Yiqing Luo's hands, from time to time, he would even shout and scream. Yiqing Luo had a smooth journey as she brought Linglong and left the Jiang family's aristocratic residence. In the dark, Yiqing Luo put Linglong down. The secluded palace's disciples and Jiang aristocrats' secret guards were searching everywhere. Linglong delightfully curled her cherry lips. "I'm still the smarter one." Chapter 4940. Yiqing Luo leaned against the wall and sighed softly. "You're smart, but have you ever thought about my identity as Feng family's Missy? Will they let us off?" Linglong's complacent smile froze bit by bit. She lowered her head. Did I get into trouble?" "Yes, so. Remember this lesson." Yiqing Luo patted her head. "In future when you think of problems, you need to think more comprehensively and consider all the consequences." Linglong's head lowered even more guiltily. "If you know guilt, then remember what I said." Yiqing Luo pulled her wrist. "Things have already developed to such a stage. You can only be a hostage and follow me back to Feng family." Linglong nodded. After a while, Mo Xian came looking for them. The three of them headed towards the Feng residence. They just reached the Feng residence. As expected, they saw the secluded palace's disciples and the Jiang family's secret guards guarding outside. But they were just loitering outside and had no intention to barge in. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as she vaguely noticed that a wisp of profound glow was faintly discernible in the sky above the Feng residence. "Is it an enchantment?" Yiqing Luo asked. Mo Xian nodded. "It should be an enchantment conjured by maternal grandfather." Maternal grandfather? This man, he changed his words really smoothly. The three of them avoided the secluded palace's disciples and approached the Feng residence from the side door. Yiqing Luo was still thinking of ways to send a message out for her maternal grandfather to fetch her. Mo Xian held her little hand and pressed it on the barrier of the enchantment. The moment her fingers touched it, the profound glow shot out. The three of them entered the Feng residence. "Feng family's bloodline can enter," Mo Xian explained. When Yiqing Luo and the rest entered, Feng family's patriarch who had set up the enchantment naturally sensed it. When Yiqing Luo pulled Linglong to the main hall, Feng family's patriarch had already welcomed them. Little Luo, are you all right?" The old man's eyes were red as his trembling hand stretched out towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo hugged her maternal grandfather and said softly, "I'm all right, look at me, haven't I come back safe and sound?" The old man pulled Yiqing Luo and sized her up for a while, until he was sure that Yiqing Luo indeed had no injuries on her before he was assured. It was at this moment that he noticed Mo Xian, who was standing not too far away. "Xiaoxian is here too. Come here, come here." The old man's eyes lit up as he beckoned to Mo Xian. "Yiqing Luo. What kind of name was that?" But when he saw Dmo Xian obediently walking to his side, allowing Patriarch Feng to pat his shoulder, listening to the old man's brainwashing greeting, "Little Xian is little Xian. Grandfather handing little Luo over to you was indeed the right choice. Fortunately, you were there, so she was safe. Thank you, grandfather, for your trust. I've said it before. I will protect Lil Luo well." Dmo Xian gave a courteous smile. Good boy, grandfather has always believed in you." Feng family master patted his shoulder again, and his eyes were full of joy. Yiqing Luo. She had no idea what had happened between Grandpa and Xian while she was away. But Grandpa liked Xian so much. She didn't have to worry about how to make her family accept Xian's existence. After Master Feng was excited for a while, he saw the beautiful little girl standing aside and looking around curiously. Yiqing Luo was about to answer, but she heard a crisp little voice coming from not too far away. "Ling Ling Long? Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 49-41. A small figure ran towards Ling Long speedily. "Ling Long, it's really you." Feng Shi grabbed Ling Long's hand with a face full of surprise. Ling Long's face was also filled with joy when he saw Feng Shi. But the next moment, she straightened her face and shook off Feng Shi's hand, staring at him fiercely. "Now you know to call me? Why didn't you tell me when you were leaving?" Feng Shi's little head drooped. Because you weren't there at that time. You left without a word. Have you ever thought about my feelings?" Ling Long bit his lower lip and continued to be fierce. Feng Shi stretched out her little hand to grab Ling Long's hand and said in a weak voice, I left you a message, Ling Long. What if I didn't see it?" Feng Shi's little face turned pale as she looked at Ling Long with red eyes. "Ling Long, I really didn't mean to, at that time. I had no choice." He hurriedly explained, "Sister took a huge risk to sneak in there to save me. I can't drag her down." The fierce look on Ling Long's face faded slowly. She grabbed Feng Shi's hand hard. "Next time, do you dare to leave me like this?" Feng Shi was stunned and shook her head quickly. No. The two little ones looked at each other and smiled. Children's friendship was extremely pure. It wouldn't be mixed with any interest disputes. Although, their positions might not be the same. But such a pure friendship. Perhaps it could change a lot of things. It was rare for Feng family's master to see his grandson like this. He looked like a real child. He stared at Ling Long with some doubts. Yiqing Luo held Feng family patriarch's arm and said with a smile, "Children should play with other children, let's not disturb them." She held Feng family patriarch's arm and looked at Granny Feng. "Granny Feng, keep an eye on them with the secret guards." When they entered the hall, Yiqing Luo then explained Ling Long's identity. Feng family patriarch's expression changed abruptly. "What? The princess of Abyss Palace? Why did you bring her here? Accompany Cece and be a hostage at the same time." Yiqing Luo paused for a moment and narrated the matter of secluded Darkness Palace and Jiang family's aristocrats colluding with each other. And now they were all gathered outside the Phoenix residence, ready to make trouble, in a concise and comprehensive manner. A few pieces of news came down one after another. Patriarch Feng was a little confused. When Dmo Xian sent Feng Shi back, therefore, he only told him to set up a barrier to prevent anyone from kidnapping Feng Shi again. But he didn't expect things to develop to this point. Yiqing Luo supported Feng family's patriarch to sit down as she spoke with a solemn expression. "Today's actions should have alerted the enemy. I'm afraid that secluded palace's side will take action soon." With how careful and cunning the Abyss Palace was, once the Abyss Palace took action, the Abyss Palace would definitely be destroyed. The entire God world would definitely suffer a huge blow. It's best to inform little uncle's side to be prepared. Yiqing Luo continued. The heavens of the God world were about to change. Everything was as Yiqing Luo had predicted. The various aristocrats in the God realm had started to show signs of being divided. Towards the Feng family who had been in charge of the God realm for a long time, The various aristocrats had long accumulated a lot of resentment. If the Feng family's acting god emperor was recognized by the divine phoenix and obtained the divine phoenix's inheritance, everyone could still accept it. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-42. But unfortunately, Feng Liqiong did not obtain the inheritance of the divine phoenix. It was only because of the former divine emperor that he had the acting position today, who didn't want to be above others, who didn't want to control the entire god realm. When this dissatisfaction and the desire for power, there was a little push. The aristocrats of the various aristocratic families, their hearts began to burn with the fire of desire. The surface of the god realm was calm. In fact, it had begun to develop in an unpredictable direction. It was very obvious to Feng Liqiong that the nobility clan's attitudes toward him had changed. Feng Liqiong received the summons from the Feng family's patriarch and returned to the Feng residence angrily. She heard about the Palace of Darkness again. She was so angry that she almost died on the spot. All of you want my position. Why don't you think about who has been handling the mess in the god realm for so many years? When something happens, all of you hide faster than anyone else. Now you're full of ambition. It's no use throwing a tantrum now. Yiqing Luo leaned back on the chair lazily. Feng Liqiong glared at her. Isn't it all because of you? Logically speaking, the Palace of Darkness's target has always been the position under your ass. Even if it's not now, they will do it later. Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders. And by then, I'm afraid you will unknowingly become cannon fodder. Speaking of which, you have to thank me. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up frivolously as her long and narrow eyes twinkled with playfulness. Let me give you a suggestion. Yiqing Luo chuckled as she enunciated each word clearly. Now, while the Palace of Darkness is just starting, secretly remember those aristocrats whose attitude has changed. And then secretly mess with them. Perhaps you can sit in this position for a little longer. Feng Liqiong's face darkened. Don't try to talk nonsense with me. I'll dig out that damn dark nether palace right now. If you can dig it out, your position will not be so unstable now. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows and slowly straightened her body. Little uncle, you'd better think of a way to win people's hearts and secure your position. Feng Liqiong was burning with anger. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, her eyes were filled with anger. Yiqing Luo's words were obviously questioning his ability. They questioned whether he had the ability to sit firmly on the position of the acting god emperor. His vision suddenly turned towards Yiqing Luo's side, to that outstanding man, Dmo Xian. You, the Imperial Palace's venerable sovereign, right? Feng Liqiong had heard of this name before. The name of venerable emperor. In the lower realm, it was a symbol of nobility and mystery. There were also rumors about him in the god world. It was said that the master of the Imperial Palace, Dizun, was also from the divine world. Moreover, they were not affected by the boundary, and they could freely travel between the major boundaries. He was a mysterious and unfathomable expert. No one knew where he came from, or where he was. Compared to a mysterious force like the Red Clear Pavilion, the Emperor Palace was much more powerful. It was even more shocking. In the past, there had been nobles from the god world who had wanted to recruit them into their forces. Finally, that nobleman's entire family was annihilated. It was enough to prove how powerful this person was. As time went by, even in the god world, no one dared to go near the Imperial Palace. Feng Liqiong searched for information about Dmo Xian in her mind. You, since you want to marry our little Luo, shouldn't you show some sincerity? Chapter 49-43. Feng Liqiong knew about the relationship between Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo. It was just that when Dmo Xian went to the Feng family to interact with Old Master Feng, he didn't come back. But from the secret guard of the Feng residence, Old Master Feng couldn't be more satisfied with this grandson-in-law, but he just couldn't stand Dmo Xian. What kind of dog was he, standing out and saying that he wanted to marry little Luo? Did he think that it was so easy to marry a lady from the Feng residence? So what if he was powerful and had a distinguished status? He couldn't even settle a wild chicken like Nether Palace. He was just a waste. This dog Nether Palace, I'll leave it to you. If you can't settle it, don't even think of marrying our little Luo. Feng Liqiang sneered. What nonsense are you talking about? Feng Liqiang threw the teacup over. Don't you want a junior to help you settle your own matter? Don't you have any shame? I'm just testing his abilities, Feng Liqiang said with a straight face. Yiqing Luo almost believed what he said. Get lost. Feng Clan's master glared at his son angrily. Don't think about little Luo and little Xian. I have specially investigated the forces of the Palace of Darkness. To be able to avoid the heavenly way and commit atrocities in the lower realms, almost annihilating the lower realms, and now to be able to quietly take root in the God realm, and quietly instigate so many aristocrats. That's enough to prove that this force is not to be underestimated. Since the other party's aim is the position of God Emperor, you as the acting God Emperor should be a good example and settle this matter quickly. Otherwise, give up the position under your butt. Feng Liqiang's words made Feng Liqiang's face turn black bit by bit. By the time the last sentence was said, Feng Liqiang was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, instantly exploded. Give up? You want me to give up the position? Since you can't settle a force that popped out of nowhere, why not directly give up the position? Feng Liqiang didn't feel that there was anything wrong with his words. Give up the position to who? Feng Qingluo? Feng Liqiang was so angry that she laughed. His tone was filled with ridicule as he squinted at Yiqing Luo. Unexpectedly, Feng Clan Master nodded very seriously. Yes, this position should belong to little Luo. The expression on Feng Liqiang's face gradually stiffened. All of a sudden, Feng Liqiang slammed the table and stood up. Did you make up your mind a long time ago? Do you still think I'm not qualified to be the emperor? Feng Liqiang's anger was unquenchable, reverberating in the hall. The air was tense. There was a moment of silence. Only then did the Feng family patriarch slowly stand up. His entire person seemed to have aged several decades, and his tone was gloomy. It's not that I don't think you're up to the task, but the inheritance of the Divine Phoenix does not acknowledge you. All the generations of Divine Emperors in the God realm have been succeeded by the successor of the Divine Phoenix. I admit that you've done very well as the acting Divine Emperor all these years, even better than Feng Ge. But if you can't obtain the inheritance of the Divine Phoenix, how can you convince the masses? Feng Liqiang's tense mood, in the words of Feng Clan head, loosened little by little. The anger on her face had also dissipated. Feng Liqiang took a deep breath and looked at Yiqing Luo. Now, the only way is to obtain the inheritance of the Divine Phoenix, and suppress those who have ulterior motives. Feng Liqiang's hands, which were pressed on the table, curled up into fists. On what basis are you so sure that she can obtain the inheritance of the Divine Phoenix? Chapter 49-44. Based on the fact that she is Xiao Jiyi's daughter. Feng Clan Master said each word with great strength. Feng Liqiang slammed her fist on the table again. The sandalwood table broke into pieces and fell to the ground. Feng Liqiang's position was very close to Yiqing Luo. The table shattered and splinters of wood flew everywhere. In the instant that Feng Liqiang swung her fist, Dmo Xian had already stood up and pulled the young lady into his arms. Turning his back, he protected the young lady tightly in his arms. The sawdust hit Dmo Xian's back. Feng Clan Master's complexion changed. Why are you angry? If you can't obtain the recognition of the Divine Phoenix's inheritance, then it's your own incompetence. Feng Liqiang's eyes were filled with rage. He clenched his teeth as he stared angrily at Yiqing Luo, and then stared at Patriarch Feng. With a wave of his sleeves, he turned around and walked out of the hall. No matter how Feng Clan Master shouted behind him, he didn't look back. This unfilial son, I'm so mad. Master Feng was so angry that his chest was moving up and down. He staggered back and sat on the chair. Yiqing Luo hurriedly went over and placed her slender little hand on Feng family's patriarch's shoulder. Grandfather, don't be angry. If you get angry, no one will be able to protect me. The girl's soft voice reduced Feng Clan Master's anger a lot. Listening to the young lady's words, he squinted at Dmo Xian. Isn't there someone protecting you very well? Yiqing Luo's little hands circled around the old man's neck. Isn't he protecting me on behalf of grandfather? But I still want grandfather to protect me personally. So grandpa, for my sake, you can't be angry anymore. Feng Clan Master was coaxed to finally show a smile. Yiqing Luo then took the opportunity to say, actually, little uncle is not angry because of the Divine Phoenix's inheritance. He is just too obsessed with the past. Because he cared about my mother, he trapped himself in the past. He just wanted to prove that he wasn't worse than my mother. Feng Clan Master sighed lightly. How can I not know? Feng Liqiong's greatest obsession was that Feng Ge had once ruined everything for a man. He thought he hated Feng Ge, but the so-called hatred was just because he cared too much. He stubbornly wanted to become the true emperor of divine emperors. He wanted to prove that he was as capable as Feng Ge. Therefore, he had been paranoid and had distorted his thoughts. On this point, this made Yiqing Luo think of Zhu Wuxian. Because of his own obsession, that man could no longer walk out of it. Actually, those disloyal nobles are already disloyal. Even if a divine emperor who has obtained the inheritance of the divine phoenix and is acknowledged by the divine emperor appears, I'm afraid it will be of no use. The people of the god world were godlike existences that stood above all the other worlds. Arrogance, conceit, and complacency were the norm. Obeying the emperor of the divine emperor was just a long-standing habit. However, the moment he harbored other thoughts in his heart, this kind of habit was easily broken. They could be their own masters. Why should he submit to others? So what if he obtained the inheritance of the divine phoenix? Obtaining the inheritance of the divine phoenix is not just to let the people in the god realm acknowledge your existence. Patriarch Feng patted the back of Yiqing Luo's hand. The target of the Palace of Darkness is you. With the divine phoenix profound heart jade, you are the best vessel. If grandfather is not by your side, and Xiao Xian is not by your side, what should you do? As long as you obtain the inheritance of the divine phoenix, inherit the position of the divine emperor, and activate the Feng bloodline, you will have enough power to protect yourself. In this way, grandfather can be rest assured. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler and collect it. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler and hit me. Chapter 49-45. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips slightly. But I may not be able to get the inheritance of Divine Phoenix. You can. Feng family patriarch slowly held Yiqing Luo's hand and pointed at the ring and bracelet on her hand. Before Xiao Gu passed away, she sealed you for thousands of years and specially sent you to the lower realm, to protect you. Xiao Gu must have her reasons for doing this. These are all left by Xiao Gu for you. It is also a symbol of you being her successor. Azure Dew Bracelet, Azure Dew 5-piece set. These all belong to her mother. Yiqing Luo recalled that she had seen countless times in the Palace of Darkness with her mother's portrait carved on the stone wall. The top was also carved with the pattern of the Azure Dew 5-piece set. Her eyelashes fluttered slightly. That's right. Azure Dew 5-piece set could open the seal to the Emperor God's tomb. And her mother left all these for her. Didn't this already explain everything? But how to get the inheritance of Divine Phoenix? Even I don't know. Feng family patriarch's eyes were serious. I think, if it is Xiao Luo, there must be a way. The hope in the old man's eyes seemed to place all his hopes on her. Yiqing Luo couldn't say anything to reject. Grandfather. A mellow and husky male voice spoke respectfully. Dmo Xian stood behind Yiqing Luo and placed one hand on her slender shoulder. His thin lips curled up as he said firmly, I will accompany Xiao Luo. Feng family patriarch pulled their hands together and patted them lightly. If the two of you can be of one heart and stick to each other, I believe that everything will be solved easily. On the second day after Yiqing Luo brought the hostage Linglong back to the Feng residence, a group of people appeared at the entrance of the Feng residence. That was, dressed in black robes, they were disciples of the Palace of Darkness. Surrounded by countless of Palace of Darkness disciples and Jiang family's secret guards, they stood at the entrance of the Feng residence and handed over their visiting cards. Their leader was a man dressed in a luxurious brocade robe. He was dressed in a noble and luxurious outfit. However, the man was wearing a mask, revealing only 2 eyes that were as deep as the sea. The man was riding a white horse that was completely different from the rest of the team. Behind the white horse was a luxurious carriage. When Yi Qing Luo saw the calling card, she went into a slight blank. Was she seeing things? This is an invitation from the Dark Nether Palace? The Dark Darkness Palace had come out from its hiding place? This was a big move. Incredible. I'm not going. A hand reached out and took the visiting card away, then threw it into the hands of the servant guarding the door. Go and reject him. Wait. Yi Qing Luo's arms encircled that person's waist as she raised her head. Since Secluded Palace has invited us so openly, let's go over and take a look. He was quite curious as to what the Dark Palace was up to. No. Mo Xian rejected Yi Qing Luo's idea without any hesitation. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes. The gloomy palace had always been hiding in a dark corner. Now he was walking out openly. There must be a reason behind it. Rather than waiting for death, he might as well go with the flow and see what the Palace of Gloomy Darkness was up to. For this point, Mo Xian should know this too. But why was he so resistant? Yi Qing Luo suddenly thought of something as she turned her head and looked at the servant who was waiting by the side. Earlier you said. This calling card, who sent it up? Trash 7th Young Mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-46. That person called himself the Palace Master of the Nether Palace, the servant replied. Yi Qing Luo. As expected, this was the reason for Mo Xian's abnormal behavior. He didn't want her to have anything to do with the Palace Master of the Palace of Gloomy Palace, Gu Jingyu, that had once saved her, and the man who turned her into a puppet of Netherworld Palace. He was indeed someone whom Mo Xian was unwilling to let her get close to. After all, it was a man that she couldn't hate, yet she felt guilty about. Compared to Zhu Wuxin, Mo Xian was even more worried about Gu Jingyu. Of course, this was not because she had any thoughts about Gu Jingyu. Instead, it was Gu Jingyu's current appearance. It was more or less to soften her heart. However, Yi Qing Luo's brows rose slightly. If I didn't remember wrongly, Gu Jingyu should be in the Qiao residence in the Earth domain right now, being guarded by the World Group's brothers. Why did he appear here? The Palace of Gloomy Darkness has gotten him out again? Back then, in order to save her, Gu Jingyu had turned himself into a puppet of the Gloomy Palace. Then the person behind the scenes from Dark Ghost Palace controlled his body. After that, after spending a Herculean effort, he forced the person behind the scenes of the Dark Palace out of Gu Jingyu's body. Therefore she imprisoned him in the Qiao mansion. The people from the Palace of Gloomy Darkness had not only gotten Gu Jingyu out, he had also brought Gu Jingyu to the God world. From the looks of it, they were obviously here for her. The current Gu Jingyu. Was it still that puppet from Dark Nether Palace? In any case, you are not allowed to go. Mo Xian didn't care what Gu Jingyu's motive was. She clasped the young lady's slender waist and her deep black eyes were a sheet of darkness. Yi Qing Luo was just about to say something. Another servant hurried over. Little miss, the one outside asked me to bring you a message. He said that you'd better listen to what he has to say before deciding whether or not to see him. As the servant was speaking, he was shivering under Mo Xian's stare, almost on the verge of crying. His voice was trembling nonstop. Yi Qing Luo stretched out her hands and blocked Mo Xian's eyes, glaring at him. Don't scare me. If grandfather sees this, I'll deduct your impression points. No. Mo Xian was incomparably calm. Grandfather wholeheartedly wants me to marry into his family. Yi Qing Luo. Are you proud of marrying into his family? Yi Qing Luo pinched his face and looked at the servant. Don't bother about him, carry on. The servant trembled in fear. That person outside said that. Young Miss Feng is living a carefree and unfettered life in the immortal realm. I believe you would like to know how your brothers are doing. If you are interested, let's meet up in the Jiang Manor. Yi Qingluo's expression suddenly congealed. Her long and narrow eyes seemed to be overflowing with light. She knew Gu Jingyu was referring to the Brothers of the World Group. What he meant was, the World Group members were in his hands. Or could it be that he knew about the World Group's current situation and wanted to share it with her? This Gu Jingyu was such a prick, and he tried every possible way to ask her to meet him. What was the reason behind it? He just felt that this was a little interesting. Don't think too much. Dmo Xian held her chin as he easily saw through the young lady's thoughts. If you want to know about the World Group's current situation, I can tell you about it. It's not like I'm not bringing you along. What's there to be anxious about? Yi Qingluo raised her hand and held his arm. If there's anything wrong, just bring me along and run. Dmo Xian put down his hand, but his brows were still tightly knitted into a bundle. Chapter 49-47. Yi Qingluo's peerless brows were like a painting. Her narrow eyes curved as she smiled and stretched out her fingers, smoothing his creased brows. Following that, she glanced sideways at the servant and instructed calmly, "Go out and tell Master Gu that he can keep the appointment, but I'll decide the location." She wasn't silly. He tried every means to meet her. Based on the secluded palace's temperament, there was definitely a conspiracy. She wouldn't be so silly to walk right into the trap. Want to meet him? Listen to her. Very quickly, the servant came back with a reply. Gu Jingyu agreed. Yi Qingluo didn't choose a place that was too far away from the Feng residence. She chose a restaurant under Feng Liqiong's influence, and using her identity as the Feng family's young miss, she asked for a top-notch secret room. Following that, she pulled Dmo Xian along to the appointment. When Yi Qingluo and Dmo Xian arrived at the appointed location, Gu Jingyu was already waiting at the entrance. That gentle jade-like face hung the usual gentle smile. A pair of deep eyes stared deeply at Yi Qingluo, his eyes filled with warmth. So warm that Yi Qingluo had some goosebumps. When he saw Dmo Xian beside Yi Qingluo, he wasn't too surprised as his lips curled into a smile. The relationship between the Overlord and Madame D is really as good as before. His gaze looked towards Dmo Xian, as though he was joking. The Overlord is so worried, Madame D, meeting me privately? Looks like the threat of me to the Overlord is quite high. This is my honor. Dmo Xian gave him a cold glance, indifferently, disdainfully, as though he didn't put him in his eyes at all. It was because of this sentence from Gu Jingyu. Yi Qingluo was certain. The person in front of her wasn't the Gu Jingyu she was familiar with. He was still that emotionless, with only Gu Jingyu's memories, the puppet of the secluded palace. Yi Qingluo sighed softly, as she held onto Dmo Xian's arm, and said calmly, "I'm the one who requested Xian to accompany me after all. You're from the secluded palace, and I'm from the Feng family, so I'm quite afraid to meet you alone." When Gu Jingyu heard that, he actually laughed. "So Madame D is afraid of me too?" "Of course I am." Yi Qingluo didn't hesitate at all. For a sinister and cunning rat like the gloomy palace, and the kind that carries poison, who wouldn't be afraid of being bitten by them for no reason? Ha ha. Gu Jingyu laughed even louder. Should I be proud of the dark palace? Yi Qingluo's brows sunk. This Gu Jingyu, who was wearing Gu Jingyu's appearance, said such words. It was like a reminder to her. Because of her, Gu Jingyu became like this. Yi Qingluo's pink lips pursed slightly as she pulled Dmo Xian into the room and sat on the chair. Gu Jingyu waved his palm and pushed 2 cups of hot tea in front of the 2 people. Yi Qingluo's cold eyes sunk slightly as she stared at the steaming hot tea. "I'm here not to listen to your nonsense." This consort naturally knows. Gu Jingyu also picked up her teacup and took a sip. Then this consort will get straight to the point. He put down the teacup, tapped the table with his fingertips, and smiled gently. "Let's make a deal." "Deal." Yi Qingluo squinted her eyes slightly, as she stared at that gentle face under the mist of the tea. I and the secluded palace don't seem to have any deal to discuss, right? Yes. Gu Jingyu replied confidently. If there isn't, why would the secluded palace keep on pestering you? Yi Qingluo's half-squinted eyes revealed a dangerous chill, but that pink lips rose slightly into an arc. Tell me about it. Chapter 49-48. At this moment, Gu Jingyu's lips curled upwards mysteriously as his fingertip tapped lightly on the lid of his cup. Overlord Madame D.Y. Don't you dare to drink tea? He laughed lowly as his gentle eyes were filled with ridicule and provocation. This is Madame D's turf. Are you afraid that I have poisoned you? The one who is afraid should be you, Palace Lord. Yi Qingluo gave a cold harumph as she lowered her eyes onto the misty tea in the cup as her lips curled up in ridicule. Perhaps Palace Lord can give it a try, to see if your poison is stronger or mine. Of course it's Madame D. Gu Jingyu replied without any hesitation. Madame D's poison is known as the world's #1 poison. Even Miss Qinggu is unable to resist it, so how would I dare to compare with Madame D? Yi Qingluo swept her sleeves. It was as though a flame was leaping as it rose up. The young lady's fair palm slapped onto her palm. Profound rays burst forth. The teacup floated into the air as it splashed onto Gu Jingyu's face. The boiling hot tea splashed onto Gu Jingyu's body with a whoosh. Since you know, why are you still playing such tricks in front of me? Gu Jingyu had no intention to avoid it at all. He allowed the tea to soak his luxurious brocade robe. He lowered his eyes as he watched the tea leaves swirling on his robe, but there wasn't much change in his expression. Why don't we pour this cup into Palace Lord's mouth? How about that? Yi Qingluo's fair finger swept across. She directly took the teacup in front of Dmo Xian into her hands. She stood up as her blazing sleeves fluttered like fire. That exquisite white jade porcelain contrasted with the red flames of the flames. It made that young lady's fair fingers emitted a jade-like luster. She walked straight towards Gu Jingyu. Madame D, I'm just joking. Gu Jingyu gave a warm smile as he immediately stood up and avoided Yi Qingluo's outstretched hand. That jade-like fair hand flashed past his eyes. A strange glint flashed past his pupils. It was fleeting. Yi Qingluo had no intention to force him. She placed the teacup heavily on the table in front of Gu Jingyu. I was just joking. Saying that, she turned around and returned to Dmo Xian's side. She knew it. As soon as he arrived at the restaurant, he saw Gu Jingyu waiting there. Something bad must have happened. He even wanted to poison the teacups. He wondered if his brain had been kicked by a donkey. Yi Qingluo sat back on the chair as she raised her brows lazily. So Palace Lord's visit this time round is to ask me to cure Miss Qinggu of the poison? No. Gu Jingyu smiled and shook his head. Miss Qingji's poisoning is a personal matter between her and the Emperor Lady. If the Emperor Lady is unwilling to cure her, then it's her own bad fate. His tone was very light and indifferent. It was as if Qingji's life and death were insignificant to him. Yi Qingluo couldn't be bothered with their twists and turns. Cut the crap, I'm very busy. She stared at Vinegar Jar Emotien's pressure and brought Dmo Xian here, not to listen to his nonsense. This time round, Gu Jingyu didn't keep her in suspense. The Emperor Lady should already know the reason why Secluded Palace needs you, right? I don't know. Yi Qingluo lazily dug her ears. Gu Jingyu seemed as though he didn't hear anything as he smiled and continued. Don't tell me that the Emperor Lady doesn't want to see the former Emperor Lord? It was a simple sentence, but it made Yi Qingluo's smile suddenly congeal. The emotions in her charming eyes were like a whirlpool, surging with turbulent waves. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-49. Madam Emperor, you are the key to opening the God Emperor's tomb. Gu Jingyu was very satisfied with Yi Qingluo's current expression. His smile deepened. As long as the God Emperor's tomb is opened, you will be able to meet the former Emperor of God Emperor. Yi Qingluo's brows lifted slightly, her eyes were deep and serene, like the flowing light of the stars, flickering with a few traces of treacherous coldness. But the expression on her face was calm like stagnant water, without any ripples. So the collaboration that you want to discuss is, if you open the God Emperor's tomb, secluded palace will let you and meet your mother. Gu Jingyu said the latter half of the sentence. His lips curled upwards, full of confidence, as though he was certain of Yi Qingluo's desire towards kinship. Yi Qingluo, this lady, was good in everything. There was only one fatal flaw. That was too much emphasis on feelings. However, everything was different from what Gu Jingyu had thought. When he finished his words, Yi Zichen was stunned. The young lady laughed instead. Does Palace Lord think I'm very silly? She pulled Mo Xian's hand, casually fiddling with his fingertips as she raised her brows and smiled. Since I can open the God Emperor's tomb, why don't I open it myself? Why don't I meet my mother on my own? Why must I bring along this group of people to destroy my mother's resting place? The young lady said every word. Her tone sounded indifferent and lazy. However, every single word was like thunder, heavily striking Gu Jingyu's heart. Her eyes narrowed slightly, revealing a cold glint. Palace Lord, you're too insincere. The way to open the God Emperor's tomb, only secluded palace knows. Gu Jingyu didn't expect Yi Qingluo to have such a reaction. Without secluded palace's help, you can forget about meeting the former emperor of God Emperor in this lifetime. Oh. Yi Qingluo's lips curled into a lazy smile. So what? Such a reaction. It had exceeded secluded palace's original expectations. Didn't Yi Qingluo want to meet her own mother? How could she possibly reject their suggestion? Yi Qingluo slowly inserted her slender jade fingers into Mo Xian's 5 fingers, interlocking with his 10 fingers tightly. She smiled and raised her eyebrows. I have Xian. Do I need you? Haven't they heard of this saying before? With the venerable sovereign in my hands, the world is mine. Xian was here. Was he afraid that he wouldn't be able to find a way to open the tomb of the divine emperor? After all, Xian had gone to the base of the Palace of Darkness. He had been searching for this method. What was there for her to be afraid of? Yi Qingluo's laughter was melodious and mellow, like pearls falling onto a plate, very pleasant to the ears. As she smiled, she raised her eyebrows and looked at Gu Jingyu. However, Palace Master specifically came to talk to me about this transaction. You told me a piece of information. Without me, your palace of gloomy shadows could not have entered the tomb of the godly emperor. After Yi Qingluo finished this sentence with a smile, her pink lips curled up even more, as the corners of her eyes added a few long and narrow seductive ripples. Her lips curled up frivolously, as she said word by word. So you're not able to take out something of equal value. So what kind of transaction do you want to discuss with me? Black mist surged in Gu Jingyu's eyes. His gentle jade-like face turned chilly. Palace Master, please leave. She pulled Mo Xian as she stood up. After you've thought of what to use to trade with me, then come look for me at the Phoenix residence. Saying that, she pulled Mo Xian as she walked past Gu Jingyu and left the room. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4950. Gu Jingyu sat on the chair in a daze. Until the young lady walked past him. He abruptly regained his senses. He stood up abruptly and turned his head over. His line of sight fell onto the young lady and the man's hands. From the beginning till the end, their fingers were clasped together. Wait. Wait. Inexplicably, the voice of stopping had already spilled out from his mouth. His gentle face, at this moment, was filled with a complicated emotion. His deep black eyes stared intently at her hand. The fiery young lady paused her footsteps, tilted her head to look at him, her long and narrow eyes, calm and indifferent. Gu Jingyu's throat tightened. He just stared at Yi Qingluo. Staring at their clasped hands, the bottom of his heart felt as if there were dense needles pricking. He didn't know why he called out to her. He also didn't know why he felt so depressed at this moment. The bottom of his heart felt as if there was a huge net densely covering his heart, making him unable to find the answer to his abnormal emotions. Palace Lord Gu. A cold mellow voice, as if 1,000 years of ice, was transmitted into Gu Jingyu's ears. He regained his senses. In front of him, that fiery red-robed young lady was already in the arms of a man in purple robe, tightly sealed, revealing only half of her exquisite face. That absolute possessive posture, noble and elegant, with a threatening tone. Please conduct yourself with dignity. The words fell. The man carried the young lady by the waist and walked away. In a blink of an eye, he disappeared in front of his eyes. It was at this moment Gu Jingyu's body suddenly seemed to be exhausted, as he sat heavily on the ground. Conduct himself? Conduct himself? His gaze and demeanor earlier. What exactly did it look like? Why, the overlord asked him to conduct himself. And it was that kind of warning, an absolute possessive posture. It was as if he had some improper thoughts towards Yiqing Luo. Improper thoughts. But that was in the past. The current him should not have any feelings towards her. Why, his heart felt so uncomfortable. Heh. A light chuckle was heard from not too far away. Gu Jingyu suddenly raised his eyes vigilantly. What entered his eyes was a section of fiery red robe. The bright fiery color made his eyes reveal a ray of light. Yi Qing. Before he could finish his sentence, the expression on Gu Jingyu's face gradually froze. That wasn't Yi Qing Luo. Instead he was dressed in red, but his face was extremely cold. He frowned slightly and slowly stood up. Pavilion Master Chu, how have you been? If this person in front of him was not Zhu Wuxin, who could it be? Chu Wuxin stood in front of Gu Jingyu, his fiery red robe fluttering in the wind. But that cold and arrogant temperament, however, it suppressed the beauty brought about by the red dress. How pitiful! Zhu Wuxin looked at Gu Jingyu and asked, not understanding what he meant. Gu Jingyu frowned. What do you mean? You don't even have the heart to love someone. Pitiful and lamentable. Zhu Wuxian's voice was cold, and there was not much fluctuation in it. Gu Jingyu frowned even more. At this moment, Zhu Wuxian glanced sideways at him with an unclear meaning. Are you really willing to give Yiqing Luo to Dmo Xian? Back at Feng Manor, Feng family's patriarch and Feng Liqiong were in a heated argument. The two children had already been brought by Grandma Feng to a place further away to play. Yiqing Luo had just stepped into the main hall. She was shocked by the vase which was thrown towards her. Dmo Xian's reaction was swift. He caught the vase with one hand and used the other to pull the young lady behind him, blocking in front of him. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-51. The entire house was in a mess. The return of the two made the quarreling father and son to stop. Yiqing Luo carefully poked her head out and hugged the vase in Dmo Xian's hands tightly as she walked over. Are you two trying to demolish the house? Don't you know that everything in the house is very expensive? She put the vase back in place and turned to look at Feng Liqiong. Why? The minute I'm not at home, you start quarreling? Feng family's patriarch was about to speak. Yiqing Luo had already walked over to Feng Liqiong. Uncle, do you want to explain to me why did you start a fight with grandfather? Feng Liqiong's face darkened, with a I'm mad, don't provoke me attitude. It indeed looked scary. Little Luo, don't talk so much with him, his brain is spoilt. Feng family's patriarch gave his son an angry stare. Towards Feng Liqiong's black face, Yiqing Luo wasn't afraid at all. She walked over to Feng Liqiong and sat down, staring straight at Feng Liqiong. Staring so hard that Feng Liqiong's heart was flustered, as he stared back with a black face. What are you looking at? Look at you now, what do you look like? Yiqing Luo replied indifferently. If mother knew that you and grandfather fought, she would definitely be very upset. The moment this sentence came out, Feng Liqiong's pupils suddenly contracted. His black face instantly covered with frost. She's upset? If she knew that she's upset, she wouldn't have abandoned the Feng family. If she really didn't care, how would she pass away? Yi Qing Luo's voice was very calm. Uncle, you are the brother that mother values the most. You are her pride. What do you think? Now that you've become like this, what kind of blow would it be to her? You can be angry at mother's desperate actions for love. You can be angry at my appearance, but you can't be angry at grandfather. He is an elder, your father, mother's father. Uncle, this. Not only mother will be disappointed, I will also be disappointed in you. The young lady stared at Feng Liqiang, enunciating each word firmly. That pair of charming eyes, from the original enthusiasm, gradually became dim and cold. She stood up, seemingly utterly disappointed. She didn't look at him anymore. If little uncle feels that he really has to continue like this, that everyone in the world has let you down, and that he has to live like this, I have nothing to say. She walked to Master Feng and held Master Feng's arm. Grandpa, let's go. I want to discuss something about my mother with you. Feng family's patriarch walked out of the messy room under Yi Qing Luo's support. But when she reached the door, she turned to look at Feng Liqiang. Grandfather, don't worry. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled craftily as she winked at Patriarch Feng and whispered, he will follow along. In the study, Yi Qing Luo asked Patriarch Feng to take a seat. Dmo Xian immediately poured a cup of warm tea and sent it to Patriarch Feng. Just as he sat down, the door of the study was opened with a bang. Feng Liqiang walked in with an air of viciousness. Yi Qing Luo winked at Patriarch Feng. See, she said Feng Liqiang would come. Patriarch Feng sighed helplessly. When he raised his eyes to look at Feng Liqiang, he put on a straight face and said angrily, what are you following me for? This matter concerns the Feng family. Why can't I come? Feng Liqiang said righteously. Yi Qing Luo patted Patriarch Feng's hand and gave him a way out. Grandfather, this matter does require uncle's help. Chapter 49-52. Feng family patriarch's expression eased up, but he still snorted coldly. It's good enough that he doesn't create trouble. What can he do to help? Yi Qing Luo smiled as she changed the topic. I just met the mistress of the Palace of Nether Palace and roughly know the other party's motive. Mentioning this point, Feng family patriarch's expression changed slightly. The Palace of Nether Palace are getting more and more daring. Now that they dare to come out from the dark, I think they have already made full preparations. According to my guess, the real mastermind of the Palace of Nether Palace should be suppressed by something. Yi Qing Luo recalled the last time when the mastermind possessed Gu Jingyu's body. Her brows creased slightly. And now, the other party directly appeared openly. I'm afraid the mastermind has or is about to recover his peak power. She had never crossed hands with the mastermind of the Palace of Nether Palace. But it was only under the situation where his power was suppressed and his body was restricted. When she faced the mastermind of the Palace of Nether Palace, the pressure was multiplied. Not to mention, the other party was at his peak. Probably not fully recovered. Dmo Xian stretched out his hand under the table and quietly held the young lady's little hand. The warm palm dispelled the young lady's uneasy emotions. If he had recovered, he wouldn't have asked Gu Jingyu to specially look for you to cooperate. The man's words made Yi Qing Luo suddenly thought of something as her eyes flashed. You mean the mastermind of the Palace of Nether Palace wants to open the God Emperor's tomb is because they want to make use of the tomb to recover their own power? Moreover, the other party urgently needs the power of the God Emperor's tomb, so at this most crucial juncture he couldn't wait. To look for me, to request for cooperation? Thinking of this, it made sense. What? What did you say? Feng family patriarch's reaction was huge as he suddenly put down the teacup in his hand and stared at Yi Qing Luo with wide eyes. God Emperor's tomb? The Palace of Nether Palace wants to open the God Emperor's tomb? When this sentence came out of Feng family patriarch's mouth carefully, even Feng Liqiang's expression became extremely tense and unsightly. Yi Qing Luo nodded. I want to tell you this matter. Palace of Nether Palace needs me to open the God Emperor's tomb. How could they know about the Divine Emperor's tomb? How is it possible to find the tomb of the Divine Emperor? Master Feng was shocked. Feng Liqiang suddenly grabbed Yi Qingluo's arm. Secluded palace. Know where the God Emperor's tomb is? Dmo Xian was just about to stretch out his hand to stop Feng Liqiang. Yi Qingluo silently shook her head at him. Then her vision shot towards Feng Liqiang. The man's handsome face was devoid of any color. A pair of white and black eyes rippled with layers of ripples. The two hands that were clasping her wrists didn't have much strength, and were even trembling slightly. Yi Qingluo pursed her pink lips as she shook her head. I don't know, the other party only said. I am the key to opening the God Emperor's tomb, and Secluded Darkness Palace has a way to let me meet Mother. When the last two words left his mouth, Feng Liqiang's body stiffened. Both his hands seemed to have no strength left Yi Qingluo's wrist. He slumped into the chair in disappointment. Sister? Can I see my sister? He muttered softly, as though he was possessed. Although Feng family patriarch was shocked, but he still had some rationality. His white brows knitted tightly. Can the Palace of Nether Palace's words be trusted? Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-53. Yi Qingluo touched her chin and pondered for a moment. Generally speaking, it's not trustworthy. And even if what he said is true, if I really agree to cooperate with him, I'm afraid that before I even see my mother, the first thing he will do after achieving his goal is. Yi Qingluo paused for a moment as she suppressed her voice and curled her lips lightly. That's right, kill me. She glanced at the dazed Feng Liqiang and emphasized. No matter if what the Palace of Darkness said is true or false. We don't need to rely on their power to enter the Divine Emperor's tomb. If what the Palace of Darkness said is true, won't we still be able to see my mother after we enter the tomb? Why would we need to cooperate with the Palace of Darkness? But Feng Liqiang, who had been silent, opened his mouth. His voice was very hoarse and his pitch-black eyes stared deeply at Yi Qingluo. Do you know? Where is the Divine Emperor's tomb? Yi Qingluo's pink lips moved, but in the end, she didn't say anything. Feng family's patriarch sighed softly. Back then Xiaoge had already predicted her own consequences. So early on, she had already set up her tomb. An extremely mysterious place that was hidden in all the realms. Even us, relatives, don't know where the Divine Emperor's tomb is. This also led to the rumor that our Feng family has treasures. Hidden treasures of the former Divine Emperor. But if there were treasures, Feng Liqiang wouldn't have schemed Yi Qingluo in the future. Yi Qingluo raised her eyes as her eyes revealed a certain resolute glint. She opened her mouth and her voice was sonorous. I intend to go to the Divine Emperor's tomb to take a look, perhaps. I can obtain the Divine Phoenix's inheritance. The young lady's clear voice drilled into everyone's eardrums. Feng family's patriarch's expression congealed slightly as his eyes were filled with worry. Xiao Luo, do you know where the Divine Emperor's tomb is? Feng Liqiang looked at her with a hopeful look. Yi Qingluo nodded. Perhaps the rumor outside. And what little uncle is looking for, and what the Palace of Darkness is trying to get. Feng family's treasure is in my hands. The atmosphere was tense. The entire study room fell into a strange silence. After a long while, Feng Liqiang's head stiffened as she stared fixedly at Yi Qingluo. On you? There was a raging fire burning in his eyes. As long as she nodded, in the next instant he would directly. He reached out to snatch it. Yi Qingluo's expression didn't change as she raised her brows slightly. Instead, she met Feng Liqiang's gaze and smiled. Yes, it's on me, so. Little uncle wants to snatch it? She was very straightforward. It was so straightforward that the fire in Feng Liqiang's eyes was gradually extinguished. He took a look at Dmo Xian, then looked at Patriarch Feng and roared angrily. You have these two people to protect you, what can I snatch from you? I'm just angry. The Feng family's treasure is really on you, and you still lied to me. Previously, I really didn't know what the Feng family's treasure was. Yi Qing Luo spread out her hands. Today it was only after Palace Lord Gu's reminder that I roughly guessed it. Feng Liqiong snorted coldly. Like hell I'd believe you. Patriarch Feng pulled Yi Qing Luo's hand. Little Luo, is what you said true? Feng family really has a treasure? Yi Qing Luo nodded. If I didn't guess wrongly, it should be something like this, that's right. She gave Patriarch Feng a gentle smile as she held Patriarch Feng's hand. Seventh young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4954. Grandfather, Xian and I will go search for the God Emperor's tomb first. Yi Qing Luo said. As long as we enter the God Emperor's tomb before the Palace of Darkness, their plans will be completely messed up. Gu Jingyu would come knocking at their door at this juncture. This meant that the mastermind behind the Palace of Darkness, they already had a new plan. If they wanted to cut off the Palace of Darkness's ambition, they could only enter the God Emperor's tomb before the Palace of Darkness, to dig out all the secrets of the God Emperor's tomb. In this way, the Palace of Darkness's plan would fail, and they would be able to suppress the Palace of Darkness's ambition. And, as compared to the Palace of Darkness, she was the descendant of the Emperor of God Emperor, the owner of the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, the owner of the Azure Water 5-piece set. The chances of winning were higher. No way, Feng family's patriarch rejected without a second thought. Since the Palace of Darkness has already sent out the invitation, that means that the people from the Palace of Darkness have their eyes on you. If you go now, wouldn't it be extremely dangerous? She would think so. The people from the Palace of Darkness would naturally think so too. How would the Palace of Darkness allow Yi Qing Luo to enter the Emperor of God Emperor's tomb? Probably following behind Yi Qing Luo silently. After finding the God Emperor's tomb, wouldn't Yi Qing Luo be in danger? Even with Dmo Xian by her side, it would be difficult for her to fight against so many enemies. There was absolutely no way to be assured. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly, her smile was firm and had a calming charisma. Grandfather, I understand your concerns. Don't worry, since I've chosen to head to the God Emperor's tomb, I'm already prepared. How could I possibly bear to let someone dirty my mother's resting place? Feng family's patriarch was filled with words to stop her. But when he met the young lady's firm eyes, he was so stunned that he couldn't say another word. His throat tightened. All his unwillingness and worries turned into a long sigh. Grandfather. Dmo Xian's mellow voice spoke gently. I will use my life to protect Lil Luo. Whatever you're worried about, I will absolutely not let it happen. He stood up and cupped his fists towards Feng family's patriarch. Bit by bit he lowered his noble head. Grandfather, please hand Lil Luo over to me. Please trust us. Each and every word was forceful and sonorous. The heart of the Feng clan master was shaking, and it was pounding. After a long while, he lowered his head. I can't control the two of you. Do whatever you want. Yi Qing Luo smiled, and stretched out her hand to hug Feng family's patriarch's neck. She smiled intimately. Grandfather, how can I bear to let you be sad because of me? So don't worry, I will definitely protect myself. As she spoke, she waved her hand. Mother left me many things. Even after Mother passed away, Mother has always been protecting me. So you really don't have to worry. The girl's soft voice soothed the old man's worries. In the end, the old man seemed to be convinced. He stared at her with a straight face, amused and angry at the same time. He couldn't keep a straight face. Okay, I'll let you go. Feng clan master covered his face hard with a rather helpless look. After covering it for a while, he moved his hand away again, and his expression was solemn. Little Luo, remember, no matter what happens, Feng family is your strongest backing. I know. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she rested her head on Feng clan master's shoulder. I will meet Mother and obtain the Divine Phoenix's inheritance and return to grandfather's side. Chapter 4955. I want to go too. Feng Liqiang's expression was cold as her dark eyes stared at Yi Qingluo quietly. I want to go too. You can't go. Yi Qingluo raised her head and met Feng Liqiang's gaze without any hesitation. Feng Liqiang's expression darkened. Why can't I go? I just want to go over and take a look. Could it be that you're afraid that I'll snatch away your opportunity and stop you from obtaining the inheritance of the divine phoenix? If I were afraid, I wouldn't have said these things in front of you. Yi Qingluo straightened up and sat down beside Feng Liqiang. She faced Feng Liqiang and faced her questioning gaze. She did not panic in the slightest. Little uncle, it's precisely because I trust you that I'm willing to let you know about these things. I know that you want to go because you want to see Mother. You want to personally ask Mother if she regrets the choice she made. But she paused. His eyes met Feng Liqiang's and he could clearly see, when she says that his purpose is only to see his mother. Feng Liqiang's eyes showed clear signs of avoiding his gaze. Even his face was a little red. It was as if he was ashamed of having his thoughts poked out. Yi Qingluo had always known this little uncle of his. Actually, it was just that the emotions in his heart were hard to calm down. Actually, he missed Feng Ge more than anyone else. However, there was really no way to satisfy his wish this time around. Yi Qingluo sighed softly. Little uncle, the current God realm, under the influence of the Palace of Gloom, is no longer the God realm that you know. If you still want to protect the God realm, to protect this, the God realm that Mother once wanted to protect, as the acting God Emperor, you have to stay. If you leave with me, and the Palace of Darkness finds out, what do you think the Palace of Darkness will do? Feng Liqiang's throat tightened, and she couldn't speak. What would happen to Shadowy Palace? If it was him, he wouldn't be able to do so. They would definitely take the opportunity to start a war. Take down the immortal world in one fell swoop. If the God world became the property of the Dark Nether Palace, I'm afraid the lower realms would also suffer. All the realms would suffer a bloodbath. The consequences were extremely serious. Feng Liqiang's hand on the table clenched into a fist. He pounded the table heavily. Damned palace of gloomy darkness. He gritted his teeth. But he had already calmed down. Yi Qingluo tentatively stretched out her hand and gently placed it on his shoulder. Little uncle, if I can really meet Mother, I can help you to pass on the words you want to say to her. After a pause, she continued. If there is a chance, I will do my best to let you meet. Feng Liqiang clenched her fists even tighter. He clenched his fists so tightly that his fingertips turned white. His joints were protruding. He gritted his teeth and snorted coldly. There was no good answer, nor was there a bad answer. Yi Qingluo looked at him for several breaths and retracted her hand. Her pink lips curled upwards as she gazed at the few of them and said word by word. You guys guard the God realm and wait for us to return. That night, Yi Qingluo used Feng Liqiang's name to call Ji Wuhua and Feng Chongqing over to the Feng residence. As soon as dinner was over, Feng Chongqing was called to the study room by Patriarch Feng for a discussion. Yi Qingluo then pulled Ji Wuhua into the room. Ji Wuhua followed behind Yi Qingluo excitedly, his face filled with excitement. Miss Qingluo, are you trying to exchange feelings with me secretly? Chapter 49-56. Yi Qingluo didn't say a word. She just dragged Ji Wuhua and threw him into the room. The door was shut with a bam sound. Inside the room it was pitch black. Ji Wuhua got even more excited. Miss Qingluo, I didn't expect you. I didn't expect you to be such a Miss Qingluo. But I like it. Hee hee. Ji Wuhua's smile was extremely radiant. He opened his arms and closed his eyes, howling at Yi Qingluo. Miss Qingluo, come on. Please don't pity me just because I'm a delicate flower. You can do whatever you want to do. I can do whatever you want. Hiss, the sound of candlelight was accompanied by the young lady's clear voice. Really anything? That soft voice made Ji Wuhua's smile even more radiant. He nodded hard. Yes, as long as it's Miss Qingluo, anything is fine. Then, I'll leave it to you, the young lady said with a smile. Come on. What do you mean? Ji Wuhua vaguely sensed that something was wrong and opened his eyes. It was okay if he didn't open his eyes. But when he opened his eyes, he was shocked. In the room where the candlelight was flickering, there were not only him and Yiqing Luo. And there were two strangers, a man and a woman, sitting on the chair. And Yiqing Luo, who was laughing in the arms of the overlord. Ji Wuhua. He'd better close his eyes. He felt a death stare staring at him. That was the death stare from His Majesty Dizun. He was going to die. Just when Ji Wuhua was about to cry, Yiqing Luo said with a smile, "Lord Flower King, let's start." The four words Lord Flower King made Ji Wuhua's hair stand on end. He shuddered and stepped back. Okay, what do we do? He was just about to move. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows slightly and her smile became even sweeter. But the threatening look in her eyes was enough to make Ji Wuhua's heart tighten. Of course. Disguise these two as me and Xian. She looked up and smiled at Ji Wuhua. Just now Lord Flower King said that I can do anything. You shouldn't be lying, right? Lie, she was the one who had used her beauty to trick him. Ah. Ji Wuhua. I feel wronged, but I can't say it. Not only could he not say it, he had to accept it with grievance. No, I won't, staring at the overlord's death stare, as well as Yiqing Luo's death smile. Ji Wuhua was very cowardly. I am the Flower King. How could the most honest person? How could he lie to you? Sob, sob, sob. Yiqing Luo nodded satisfactorily. Start your performance. Ji Wuhua. Inside the room, there were two strangers who were disciples of the Emperor Palace. Their figures and postures were similar to Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. When the both of them came out with their disguises, they changed into Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's clothes. If one did not look closely, they did indeed look like two different people. However, after all, a fake was just a fake. His mannerisms and actions were somewhat similar. However, his temperament was clearly different. Ji Wuhua was busy for half a day before he finally heaved a sigh of relief as he sat down on the table. What are you trying to do by making two fakes? Yiqing Luo smiled as she passed him a cup of tea. You've worked hard. Ji Wuhua instantly jumped up as though he was injected with chicken blood. He received the tea from Yiqing Luo and stared at the tea. The cup that Miss Qing Luo touched. The tea that Miss Qing Luo poured for me personally. Sob, sob, sob. He wasn't going to drink it. He wanted to keep it. Trash, seventh young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Trash, seventh young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Chapter 49-57. Yiqing Luo's next sentence knocked him down from the peak of excitement. Let's continue after the tea. Ji Wuhua was so scared that he almost dropped the cup in his hand. Continue? Continue what? Yiqing Luo pointed to her own face and then to Dmo Xian. It's our turn. Ji Wuhua. Did you think it was easy for me to disguise myself? Did you think I could easily disguise myself? My hands are sore from tormenting two people in a row. I want to go on strike. I quit. Damn, it smells so good. Ji Wuhua resigned himself to his fate as he picked up the tools and started a series of. First, she removed her makeup and removed the alluring face that she had put on earlier. Then, she put on a new pretty face that was more delicate and mischievous. After that, helped Dmo Xian to disguise himself. Yiqing Luo wanted to disguise Dmo Xian as a heroic and mighty man in his 30s. Compared to her, it was like an uncle with a loli, so sexy and flirtatious. But perhaps Ji Wuhua was intimidated by Dmo Xian's majesty and his hands were trembling. Or perhaps Ji Wuhua did it on purpose. After an hour and a half of disguise, finally the finished product was presented. Yiqing Luo's jaw almost dropped. Wow. 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 It was a fair and delicate face. So delicate that it was cute. Her long and slender eyelashes fluttered like butterfly wings. His deep blue pupils rippled with a pure and mysterious light that was as deep as the sea. Even the lips were pink and lovely like a rose. Yiqing Luo's maiden heart was about to burst. Ji Wuhua must have done it on purpose. Ji Wuhua looked at the 14 or 15-year-old young man in front of him and expressed his satisfaction. Such an overlord. Could he still bluff? He only knew how to give him a death stare. He only knew how to scare him. Humph, even if he wanted to scare people now, he couldn't use his majesty anymore? Ji Wuhua's face was full of pride and his little mouth was about to rise to the sky. However, seeing Dmo Xian's face reflected in the bronze mirror, he squinted his clear and limpid eyes as he cast a sidelong glance. Ji Wuhua's complacent smile froze on his face, shivering with cold, bowing down to the big shots. I was wrong. Ji Wuhua admitted defeat decisively. Dmo Xian curled his cherry blossom pink lips slightly. Wrong, do you know what to do now? I'll help you disguise yourself again. Ji Wuhua straightened his back. Even if I changed my appearance into a cute little girl, the overlord's oppressive aura and murderous death stare were not weakened at all. It was too scary. Ji Wuhua's small hands trembled as he was about to help Dmo Xian remove the disguise on his face. A fair little hand suddenly stretched out. Then he blocked Ji Wuhua's movement. The girl's pretty eyes curved slightly, and she smiled with incomparable joy. That's good. I don't need to disguise myself again. But, Ji Wuhua looked at Dmo Xian hesitantly. Dmo Xian raised his eyes and looked at Yiqing Luo. That black eyes that were as pure and innocent as the sea were like azure blue gems, sparkling with brilliance. He asked, do you like it? Like, Yiqing Luo nodded like a chick pecking rice. As long as it's Xian, I like it. In that instant, the man's imposing aura, which was overflowing with a vicious aura, suddenly disappeared. That delicate and adorable eyebrows and wrinkles also calmed down. Trash seventh young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash seventh young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-58. Yiqing Luo leaned forward and cupped the man's face with both hands. That's it, no need to change. And I won't exchange. Dmo Xian unconditionally agreed to any request of his darling. Yiqing Luo's glass-like eyes smiled like a crescent moon. This Xian is really cute, so cute that I want to. She hugged the man and said, I want to hide you from others. Dmo Xian's rose-like lips, his smile was pure and clear. Even his voice had become compatible with that face, so ethereal that it could cleanse one's soul. So Lil Luo likes this. Yiqing Luo's maiden heart thumped wildly. Too cute. I can't hold on. I want to hug him. However, as a pacifying boy, she was still rational. After the man said this sentence, she immediately continued, because it's Xian, I like him. The man chuckled softly. His sapphire blue eyes were filled with a doting and helpless smile. She could always make him happy inadvertently. Ji Wuhua, who had been ignored and thrown away after using it, was at a loss for words. Hey, can't you pay attention? I'm still standing there. Was there a need to show off their love in such a deranged manner? That was his goddess. His heart ached. He was struggling internally, and his mind was filled with thousands of scenarios. Rushing forward, pushing Dizun away, and taking back his goddess. But in fact, he only dared to stand where he was, holding his aching heart, motionless. That night, Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian, together with the barbaric Bloodbone King, quietly left the Phoenix Manor and headed towards the boundary of the God Realm. In the darkness, a few figures were faintly discernible. Right then, on the second floor of the restaurant, a curtain was lifted, revealing a pair of charming eyes. In the dark night, those charming eyes were like the stars in the night sky, dazzling and dazzling. Staring in the direction where the figures disappeared, the girl's pink lips softly clicked her tongue. I guessed right. The people from the Palace of Darkness were really. He stared at her all the time. He thought that he had made thorough preparations. He didn't expect that he would be exposed before he even set off. The influence of the Netherworld Palace was getting bigger and bigger in the God Realm. This time, they had to speed up. Otherwise, grandfather and little uncle might not be able to hold on for much longer. Xian, no, now I should call you Ayun. The girl smiled sweetly, her eyes like crescent moons. He changed his appearance. Naturally, he had to change his name. Now her Xian was called Chaoyan to the public. Her name was Muyu. Morning clouds and evening rain. Clouds in the morning, rain in the evening. Day and night, I pass the days together with my son. Say, how long do you think it will take them to find out that those two are fakes? They won't find out. Dmo Xian replied indifferently. The map in their hands is half real and half fake, with the imperial palace's disciples escorting them, as well as the blood-bone barbaric king's protection. Even if it's Gu Jingyu, he wouldn't be able to detect. That's fake. Yi Qingluo leaned lazily in his arms as she used one hand to brush his black hair. But secluded palace isn't stupid. So we have to be fast. Dmo Xian held her slender waist lightly. When dawn breaks, we'll leave. Yi Qingluo nodded smilingly. 2 days later. Godrealm's barren land, in a rather remote village. Yi Qingluo and Dmo Xian were resting in a simple tea house. A pair of men and horses were extremely arrogant as they stepped on the dust. Chapter 49-59. The iron-blood horse raised its hooves and trampled on the tables and chairs in the tea house. Sawdust flew. It almost hit Yi Qingluo. Dmo Xian raised his hand to block it. Yi Qingluo raised her eyes and looked at that group of people. A total of 14 people. The leader was a man and a woman. The man's build was huge and strong like a bear. The woman was not bad-looking, but there was a strong aura in her eyes. Both of them looked about the same age, around 24 or 25. The head of the Dark Void Hall is here again. Half a month ago. Didn't they just come? Why are they here again? They know that those little brothers have left, so they specially came over to seek revenge? Isn't the Dark Void Hall backed by the Jiang family's aristocratic family? So arrogant, aren't they afraid of causing a backlash from other cultivators? Not far away, the villagers complained unwillingly. But no one dared to stand out. The leader jumped off the horse and kicked the ruined table. Is the boss of your tea house blind? Why don't you come out and serve? His line of sight swept across. His gaze fell on the seat where Yi Qingluo and Dmo Xian were sitting. It was no wonder that he noticed this side at first glance. Mainly, the entire outer shop of the tea house, because of their arrival, the tables and chairs were all ruined. Their table was the only one that was still intact. Moreover, the other villagers had long shrunk to the side. They were the only ones who were still sitting there calmly. All of you get up. The leader strode over. This seat, we want it. Yi Qingluo squinted her eyes in interest. She didn't expect that in the God realm. To encounter this kind of evil tyrants traveling. It was said that the entire God realm was full of awesome cultivators. Any one of them was capable of doing something earth-shattering. Although this group of villagers were just villagers. But they were still cultivators, right? Was it really good to be so cowardly? Could they still behave like a cultivator from the God realm? If those people from the lower realm saw this, wouldn't they be disillusioned with the God realm? Yi Qingluo expressed that she was incomparably disillusioned now. I'm talking to you, didn't you hear me? Perhaps it was the first time that the leader had met someone who dared to ignore him. He slapped the table hard. The 2 teacups and the teapot on the table toppled over. Tea was poured all over the table. Yi Qingluo raised her eyes slightly as she looked at the leader. Her charming eyes were calm. Her delicate eyebrows curved like the crescent moon. Without the slightest hint of fear, he met the ferocious gaze of the leader. Then her pink lips curled up bit by bit, revealing a lovely smile. You spilled my tea. What? The leader frowned as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. Yi Qingluo was still smiling as she repeated a sentence. You spilled my tea. The leader's eyes were filled with rage. What did you say? The owner of the tea house immediately came forward. Boss, these 2 are just passers-by. They don't know the rules. Please forgive them. We've specially prepared a room for you. You can rest inside. Rest inside. As the boss was saying that, he signaled Yi Qingluo with his eyes, making them take the opportunity to leave. Old man. The leader grabbed the collar of the tea house owner and lifted him up with one hand. Since they don't know the rules, I'll teach them what the rules are. The profound grade of the tea house owner was not low. At least Yi Qing Luo could sense the strong, profound grade aura of the tea house owner. But the tea house owner was indeed easily detained by the other party. Chapter 4960. It could be seen how powerful the Grand Hall Master of Dark Void Hall was. Grand Hall Master, they're just passers-by, please be magnanimous and let them go. The tea house boss couldn't bear to implicate the young couple. So much nonsense. Do you believe that I'll teach you a lesson too? The leader impatiently threw a punch towards the tea house boss's face. Ah! A sharp shriek pierced through the sky. The leader painfully hugged his hand as he staggered backwards 2 steps. The tea house boss was suddenly let go. Losing the support of his strength, he fell backwards weakly. But he didn't fall. A fair little hand clasped onto his shoulder. A seemingly soft and slender wrist. But it was able to steadily support his body, allowing him to stand firmly. The tea house boss heaved a sigh of relief while still in a state of shock. Turning his head, he saw that dainty young lady with a sweet smile on her face. He was so shocked that he broke out in cold sweat. Madam Chow. His original intention was not to involve the young couple in this matter. He had not expected. But now, it was this young girl who had lent him a helping hand. This time, how would the people from Dark Void Hall let her off? Grand Hall Master. Cousin brother. A few exclamations were heard from the direction of that group of people. The lady and the other cultivators who were dressed in martial arts attire ran towards the leader. They only saw that the leader's hand, which was about to hit the tea house boss's face, had a hole pierced through it, and water was gushing out. That fiendish face was twisted into a ball because of the pain. It was that young lady who did this. The leader's eyes were sinister as she stared angrily at the direction of that dainty young lady. Do you know who we are? Then, do you know who I am? The young lady's tender lips curled upwards as she gave a light smile. The young lady's question. It made the surrounding people's hearts tighten. The leader's brows creased tightly as she sized up Yi Qing Luo vigilantly, as though she was scrutinizing her identity. If she dared to ask such a question. Presumably, the backing behind her must be very strong. The leader pondered for a moment and asked, "Who are you?" Yi Qing Luo's delicate pink lips slowly rose upwards. That half-smile, with a hint of mockery in it, caused the leading woman to feel a strange feeling in her heart for no reason. Just as he was about to stop Yi Qing Luo from speaking, he heard that melodious and soft voice, which was like that of a girl next door, enunciating every word. "I am your father. Courting death." The leader's eyes shot out a baleful aura, as the long spear in her hand swept out, directly piercing towards Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't have the slightest change. Instead, she was all smiles as she looked at the incoming long spear. His pink lips carelessly spat out words that made people feel ashamed and annoyed. "My good daughter, you're not dead yet. Why would your father seek death?" The moment the spear fell, in front of the young lady, an invisible barrier formed by an invisible shockwave blocked the spear. After that, a ray of dark light tore through the sky and descended. Bang! The moment the earth-shattering explosion rang out, a loud sound rang out. The leader of the group fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string, only to see that dainty young lady dressed in a peach-colored long dress was being protected in the arms of a man dressed in a bamboo-colored long robe. The leader of the group clearly saw this earth-shattering dark light oppressive force. It was just that the man had casually waved his sleeves and created it. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4961. Her eyes widened as she stared incredulously at the tall man. She couldn't believe her own eyes. Yi Qing Luo walked over to them with a light smile. Those cultivators who were following behind were so frightened that they retreated backwards as they looked at her with vigilance. The leader's face turned pale as he stared at Yi Qing Luo. He recalled that his hand was pierced through by that young lady using something unknown. This was totally ruining his hand. Thinking of this, the leader's eyes turned scarlet as he gritted his teeth and bellowed, What are you trying to do? The young lady smiled innocently as she blinked her eyes and spoke in a soft voice. You spilled my tea and smashed the teahouse boss's shop. How should we settle this score? You. The leader didn't expect that the other party actually wanted to settle the score with him. The suppressed anger in his chest suddenly sprang up at this moment. Slut! Are you looking for death? A paw sound was heard. A gust of hurricane struck and landed a loud slap on the leader's face. That man in the bamboo robe took steady steps as he walked to the young lady's side. A pair of azure sapphire-like eyes revealed a frosty sharpness. If you insult her one more time, I will pull out your tongue. The man's voice was similar to a young man's voice. Very soft. When he said this sentence, there wasn't much emotion. But there was a kind of, which made one's heart turn cold. They didn't dare to doubt the truth of what he said. The group of people instantly didn't dare to say another word. The young lady was pampered and arrogant as she raised her eyebrows but didn't lose her young lady's charm. My husband is very powerful. If you guys can't think it through, feel free to find trouble with us. But there's a possibility that this price is your sex life. The last two words. The young lady's tone suddenly deepened as her voice was bewitching and low. The group of people's faces turned ashen. The leader's face twisted. He gritted his teeth and shouted in a low voice, "Let's go." The next moment, the group of people had already disappeared in front of their eyes. A cloud of dust was kicked up. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue. Hey, don't go, I haven't paid for my tea. After the people from the Anshu Hall left, the shabby village gradually regained its hustle and bustle. Countless villagers who had been hiding in their homes squeezed over. You two hurry up and leave. The tea house owner sighed softly. You are outsiders, so you don't know what happened here. If you don't leave now, when the people from Dark Void Hall come, the two of you, no matter how strong you are, he shook his head. Let's go. Let's go. If we leave, what will you do? Yiqing Luo smiled. That Dark Void Hall's people, no matter how I look at them, they don't look like good people. They will definitely not let you off right. She looked around at the dozens of villagers around her. The two of us haven't reached the point where we would sacrifice your lives for our own safety. Yiqing Luo pulled Mo Xian back to her previous seat and sat down. Why don't you tell us that Dark Void Hall? What kind of force is it? The tea house owner looked at the girl's smiling face and felt a little worried. But the young lady was too determined. He had no choice but to sit opposite Yiqing Luo as he explained the Dark Void Hall in a concise and comprehensive manner. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4962. Anshu Hall. It was a force that had inexplicably developed 3 months ago. Their behavior was similar to that of a bandit. In any case, everything that should be done, and everything that shouldn't have been done, had been done. Wherever they went, there would be a great wave of carnage. At first, some people wanted to resist. But the price of resistance. Otherwise, the entire family would be buried in a sea of fire in a single night. Otherwise, the entire village would be obliterated. No one could do anything to the Anshu Hall. Because the power behind the Anshu Hall was one of the divine world's 5 great aristocratic families, the Jiang family. Or perhaps, everything that the Anshu Hall had done had been instructed by the nobles of the Jiang clan. The current Anshu Hall had taken root in various places in the God realm. It took 3 months. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her brows creased slightly. The nobles of the Jiang family. This made her think of the Palace of Darkness. The Jiangs had long colluded with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. If the Anshu Hall was a subsidiary force of the Jiang clan, this also meant that, 3 months ago, the Gloomy Palace had already extended their claws into the God realm. But what is the purpose? The Jiang clan was one of the 5 great aristocratic clans of the divine realm. Ruining his own reputation like this, causing his reputation to resent him. Aren't you afraid of incurring a backlash from those profounders? The Jiang family's aristocrats. Why would they allow the Dark Void Hall to do such a bandit thing so wantonly? Yiqing Luo asked puzzledly. The tea house owner shook his head. I'm not too sure either. However, I overheard those people chatting while drinking tea here. The tea house owner paused for a moment, then lowered his voice and said, the people from Anshu Hall seem to be looking for a place. Find a place? Between Yi Qing Luo's enchanting eyes, a glint flashed past. However, on the surface, there was still that delicate and innocent expression. Looking for a place? If he's a noble, isn't it just a matter of saying the name of the place he's looking for? They don't even know where they are. The tea house owner lowered his voice even further. I heard them say that the Anshu Hall is still spread out in every region. Even deep in the mountains and ancient forests, countless people have been planted, all for the sake of finding that place. Yi Qing Luo was almost certain now. The existence of the Anshu Hall. It was probably done by the Palace of Darkness. He wanted to find the location of the Divine Sovereign's tomb. However, how could the secluded Darkness Palace be so sure that the Divine Emperor's tomb was in the God realm? Would he be able to find the Divine Emperor's tomb if he searched everywhere in the Divine world? Girl, have you forgotten what happened to you in the Palace of Darkness? Old Man Song's voice reminded her in her mind. Yi Qing Luo. What? Old Man Song said. The stone wall of the Palace of Darkness once brought you to the periphery of the Divine Emperor's tomb. And the Palace of Darkness must have known the scenery outside of the Palace of Darkness through your consciousness. The Palace of Gloomy Shadow is searching for the tomb of the Divine Emperor in such a way. They must be searching for that place that looks similar to the surroundings of the Palace of Gloomy Shadow. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed as she scoffed in her heart. What a pity, after preparing everything and planning everything, we still can't even find a destination. The tea house boss saw that Yi Qing Luo didn't speak for a long time, and thought that she was stunned by the power of the Jiang family's aristocrats. He tried his best to persuade them. Two customers, now that you know the power of the Anshu Hall, you'd better leave this place quickly. If the Grand Hall Master of the Anshu Hall brings his men over, they will not let you off. That pair of siblings are vicious and merciless, and they like to snatch women and men by force. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.